Sexoterica. So, I know I listen to a lot of podcasts, obviously, but I guess I'm wondering, have you heard, because I know we both listen to them here and there, did you hear that episode of Aubrey Marcus, where he had his two wives, well, not two wives, but
oh, you mean
one
wife and girlfriend? Yeah, I heard that one.
Yeah. So, this is something worth discussing because, well, for multiple reasons, it really hits the intersection of like what Sexoterica is about. And, you know, in the sense that, like, here's a show like, okay, Aubrey Marcus. For those that don't know who Aubrey Marcus is, very briefly, this guy made, 9 figures. He started the company Onnit, a fitness company Onnit with Joe Rogan, made 9 figures, sold out, walked away from it, whatever, does his own thing now. But now for a while now, he's an author, but he also has the Aubrey Marcus podcast, which is, fairly popular as I understand it. And it delves heavily into the realm of mysticism, and the esoteric and health and psychology and all of that. So he got into a point, he got really hard into supporting RFK Jr. And then it seemed like at some point he really got hardcore, or like he was kind of courting, this is my understanding, is that he was courting sort of a MAGA crowd. Okay.
Oh, that's gross.
Yeah, right. But I mean, you've listened to his show, a few times. I mean,
yeah, I appreciate his show when he's talking about his spiritual experiences or
right.
drug experiences or
right.
anything that has to do with topics that are not commonly discussed.
Mm-hmm.
But MAGA's not one of those, and neither is RFK Jr.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to listen to the Aubrey Marcus podcast and hear Fox News.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to hear the things that nobody else will say.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. And because you've, I've sent you episodes that, for example, this is terrible. Now I can't think of his name. Dr. Robert Gilbert?
Robert Gilbert.
Yeah, Dr. Robert Gilbert, who absolutely brilliant.
He was
sadly
a very
passed.
impressive man. Yeah.
Yeah. I would take issue with some Rosicrucian stuff, but we don't have to get into that here.
I love that he talked about the Rosicrucian stuff.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Oh, I mean, it's enlightening, it's knowledge you rarely get anywhere else. Go ahead.
He would even enlighten the Rosicrucians themselves, or people
yes.
who were of some sort of very secretive, selective society.
Yeah.
He'd give talks to them and educate them on
right.
their cultural history.
Exactly. Yeah. So you get characters like that. You get characters like Mark Gaffney, who I also appreciate, who was also on this podcast that we listen to. That we both listened to.
You mean Aubrey Marcus?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep names straight here.
Yeah, no, totally. So this podcast that we listen to. Okay, so that's the deal with Aubrey Marcus if people aren't familiar with them. I know people want to laugh and say the Onnit guy, the fitness guy. Get past that a little bit. He actually brings some pretty interesting stuff, and we'll talk about this. But he did a podcast where he had Mark Gaffney on, who is like his... Well, Mark Gaffney is a whole other conversation we don't have to get into. Look him up on Wikipedia, okay? Aubrey Marcus is not on Wikipedia, but we just gave you an introduction to him. He's been, I don't know how long they've been married, but they've been at the very least together for some years.
Not Aubrey Marcus and Mark Gaffney.
Yeah, no. I mean, Vylana, his wife, and Alana, who is their girlfriend. Now, we can talk about exactly, how... though they met, because I think that's worth getting into. Okay. But these are the people that did this podcast. And again, with Aubrey Marcus, there has been this insane reaction to basically Aubrey Marcus coming out and saying that, yes, I have a wife and I also have a girlfriend. We have a girlfriend. Both his wife and him have a girlfriend that is, I think she's in her late 20s, if I'm not mistaken on that. But the reaction to this has been insane.
Yeah, and if you want to hear the episode that Brian's talking about,
Yep.
you can look in Aubrey Marcus's podcast feed. I don't remember the name of the episode.
I'll link it in the show notes.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So this, I mean, Ellen, you and I, coming out of like the libertarian space, like the concept of polyamory, super commonplace, right? I mean, would you say that was your experience?
Yeah, I mean, coming into the libertarian world, I had no conception of what polyamory was or any sort of like non-traditional relationship. But yeah, it's very popular in that circle.
Right. So to hear this, to see the negative reactions to this is kind of a shock, because it's like, what? You think most people don't do this anyway? I mean, and you don't even have to be like out in or out of the libertarian space. I mean, look at Hollywood, I mean, the concept of mistresses, thruples and all. I mean, like, this is all like, I'm just stunned that people think like, wow, what the hell is this? This is crazy. Anyway, sorry. Do you have a thought?
Yeah. My thought is just that like most people practice polyamory or at least serial monogamy for the majority of their lives. And if they're in a relationship and they cheat on their partner with someone else, guess what? That's polyamory. It's not consensual on one person's behalf.
Right.
It's a less honest version. I think that what they're doing is just the more honest version.
Yeah, for sure. And so the reaction to this, I mean, it only seems to make sense if it's because the bulk of the audience that he's built up is this like MAGA crowd who are, conservative, quasi-Christian or genuinely Christian or whatever, that everybody kind of, like piled on. I mean, and some of it's been vicious. Other parts of it have been, hey, it's women coming out and saying, hey, I was there too, dating like a wealthy couple. And, I only ended up with my heart broken. It wasn't healthy for me to do. I wasn't valuing myself. I mean, you get like all these kinds of responses, but some of them, admittedly, yes, have also been incredibly vicious. And I've heard later podcasts, because Aubrey Marcus has kind of kept talking about this, because I guess he feels he needs to justify it. I don't think he needs to justify shit.
No.
Okay.
No, he doesn't.
Right. But I mean, he's cried on air. Now, I've heard him do that many, many times over the years, and to some degree, like, really. And you can tell me if you feel differently about Aubrey Marcus, Ellen. But like, I think he's a fairly genuine guy. I mean, it's just the read I get. Go ahead.
I think he's genuine. Sometimes I feel that he is a little nuts, to use your term, your colloquialism. There are some times where he says things that are like a little far out for me to believe, but I still think that he believes what he's saying.
Sure.
And I think he's really, trying his best to be a good person and to explore the mysteries.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so there's times where, he claims that he's, and he'll use very carefully, because he's a very knowledgeable guy in a lot of these aspects of, shall we say, mysticism, okay? Like, he'll be very careful and say, like, he's talked to Yeshua. He doesn't say he's talked to Jesus. He said he's talked to Yeshua, or that he's talked to mosquitoes and things like this. So, for a lot of people, that might be an instant turnoff, right? I mean, to me, I'm like, okay, sure, like that can happen.
He believes that he has.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
who can tell him no?
Well, sure, yes. I mean, and he's his kind of, I guess what he considers to be his, like, not claim to fame, but I'll say claim to fame in the, area of mysticism in general comes down to his extensive experience with plant medicine. Now, a lot of people could say, well, college frat guy or something, right? like what is
frat guys don't go on ayahuasca journeys.
No, right.
And if they did, they'd be better for it.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that a lot of, he's very open, and I do appreciate his open and honesty, because I mean, how many people actually will get to talk? I mean, you and I will get behind the mic now and talk about, our entheogen experiences, but I feel like so few people really do that. Like that, there's still something hanging over people's heads to where they won't go into, especially, discussing the crazier aspects, perhaps, quote unquote crazy, of what you experience in those things, which you and I have as well.
Yeah, I think the majority of people who do talk about drug experiences today are talking about microdosing on mushrooms or LSD and how it's helped them with creativity and productivity, but not really talking about like the psychedelic experience that led them to discover this new truth about reality or something like that.
Right.
Whereas Aubrey Marcus is talking about, like, I had an interdimensional doctor perform surgery on my internal emotions, and now I'm just in a better state of mind or something like that. That's just really far out for most people. It's not an everyday experience. It's not even like a once a week or once a month experience.
Right.
It's like a very special thing, and I do think that most people are probably a little afraid to go that deep into a psychedelic experience, especially with something that's less common, like ayahuasca.
Right.
But there is a culture around this drug that is very ancient, and it's very special because it's meant to be a healing ceremony.
Yes.
Like, it's a whole ceremony. It's not just something you do with your friends in an apartment on the weekend,
Yeah, exactly.
You have to prepare for it. There's a special diet. There are like blessings, and you have to be in the right headspace to do it. And then when you do finally take something like ayahuasca, it's intense. Like, it can last for up to 8 hours, sometimes more. You can vomit a lot.
Yeah.
There is purging.
Right.
Purging is involved. And then, afterwards, you also have to take care of yourself. And throughout the experience, people are just not in touch with this reality. They go someplace else. I don't know where, but it's not here.
Sure. Yeah. So, and I mean, and to his credit, like, Aubrey Marcus has funded a lot of like documentaries, and I mean, real documentaries, in fact. I mean, sometimes, things that are called documentaries on YouTube are kind of like, well, maybe if it was public television back in the day, this would, count for a documentary. But no, he's done some great work in highlighting entheogens in general in a very positive way, and that I respect and appreciate. So I never saw him as like a MAGA type. I thought it was kind of I don't even want to toss around terms like crazy. I was annoyed, that he's like suddenly got political and is supporting RFK Jr., forget that stuff. But I think the political part is something we have to talk about within the criticism, because the way that a lot of people kind of offhand criticized him, and I want to talk about the relationship part, that's what we're going to get into. But the way a lot of people kind of just offhand, like, just brushed him off was that, well, he's a Trump supporter.
What is that supposed to mean?
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, and I don't need to defend him. He can defend himself on all this shit. I don't need to do that. But like, basically saying that, how can you be a Trump supporter, who wants to like deport, homeless or kill homeless people or do whatever the hell else that they, that everybody says Trump wants to do, some of which is true, some of which is a little hyperbolic, but regardless, okay, like, I understand. I mean, we're not Trump supporters whatsoever here.
No, not at all.
Yeah. I mean,
no politician is good enough.
Exactly. Right. And couldn't be, because the instant you want that kind of power, okay, there's something messed in your head. But regardless, so I don't think that's just not something to like, to just kind of make that associative claim and just say, oh, well, then this person's doing terrible shit to these women. Like, I hate to talk this way, but look, that's just not a valid argument. Like, it's like, oh, well, they support A, so they must be, doing sadistic shit to B and C, that being Alana and Vilana, and like that. Anyway, just a lot of these criticisms are just, in my opinion, so off the mark.
Yeah, they're red herrings, kind of.
Very much, yeah. And there's some straw manning. There's all kinds of these problems within this. Then other people will just attack Mark Gaffney for his checkered history, which, I'll leave that to listeners to check out. Okay, how far they want to go with that. But regardless, I think that like, I mean, it was courageous for them to still be out in the open, even though you and I might kind of see this as kind of common, like the idea of a throuple or or polyamory or things like this. New Hampshire is a very strange place, folks. But I hear it, and it just proves one thing to me. And this is what I really want to talk about is relationships need to evolve. There's nothing wrong with the relationships that have existed and that have existed for thousands of years. But the response to Aubrey Marcus coming out, with all of the disclaimers he made and everything he said, how look, if Vylana wants to leave me, she can leave and she can take so much fucking money with her. She'll be set for life, and I'll make sure she's set for life. And
Vylana was on this episode.
Yeah, right.
She talked openly and freely about it.
Right. As did, the third entry, Alana, she did as well. And I mean, I think there's value in talking about, how did they find Alana? Like what happened there? And we'll get into that. But the response to this, it's just so clear that go ahead.
Human culture is just not open anymore. And I say that because there's been such a twisting of love and compassion and humans' ability to form bonds, maintain bonds, and be healthy and happy together in many different variations. And there's just not a respect for individuality. I feel like Christianity and other religions, I guess, that promote monogamy have really made people afraid of their impulses to want to be with more than one person or multiple people. And then, this is just propagated through things that people watch since childhood, like Disney movies. And you don't ever learn about alternatives existing to a monogamous relationship. I just feel like the cards are stacked against people in that regard. So I almost don't blame most people for being surprised or shocked. Because if I was in a world where I never entered the libertarian sphere and learned about polyamory at a I guess young adult age, but still I lived my entire childhood not knowing that was even an option. I would be equally as shocked. But I think most people are just closed-minded to it because, one, they're told a narrative that doesn't exist in, that there is not an option. And then two, most people are afraid. When they start thinking about that as an option, they're scared because they think they're going to lose the person that they love. Or suddenly, there's so many competitors in the dating pool that they might not be good enough.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot going against people in general accepting this idea that there can be more than one configuration of a loving, intimate relationship. Right.
That there's something beyond monogamy, that there's even some kind of ethical non-monogamy. I mean, it's just, it's so hard for people to, to really grok, for people to really integrate. And I mean, it was so amazing to see so many of the responses where they're just, they're basically just attacking the idea, no, it's just not possible for you to have two women as lovers, or this is the daddy role, the rich man. I mean, oh man, lots of ad hominem. Not that I'm against ad hominem, but there was no reason for it in this case. Now, that's not to say everything talked about within it was when I heard the episode where I was oh, that sounds a little weird. That's a little off. And I want to talk about that because this gets into some of the esoteric areas. And then I want to circle right back into, what other kind of relationship configurations can this look like? So the first thing, meeting Alana. So he's been with Vylana for a while. They were already kind of non-monogamous. I think he said the first time he met her was during a threesome or something.
So occasionally they have threesomes with other people, which is just, like inviting someone into the bedroom for a night or a couple nights or whatever, but it's not like a person who's bonded and integrated fully into their daily relationship.
Yeah. And another quick point. I mean, and again, folks, listen to the episode. It's linked in the show notes. It's like 3 hours long, but I think it's worthwhile despite what some other critics would say. Regardless, so it seemed like they've been together for like a year or more. Like all three of them have been together for that time frame. In that time frame, also Vylana has had other men as lovers. So it's not like, what's good for me isn't good for thee kind of.
Yeah,
like
she's
that
not trapped in a bad situation. No,
right.
She still has freedom of choice.
Right. So here's the thing. So it sounds like about a year ago, maybe more. I could have the timeline a little bit wrong, but the bottom line is they didn't just come out like, oh, I met this gal 2 weeks ago and now we're all together and, some kind of happy whatever it is, and
yeah, I feel like that was well thought out. Like they waited to show that they have some level of success with this relationship configuration before they started explaining it to the rest of the world.
Exactly. Yeah. So Aubrey and Vylana are in Miami and they open up, or, they have what's called the Raya app. Now, a lot of people are learning about this. This app has actually been around for a little while. The Raya app is basically it's like Tinder for wealthy people, for celebrities and whatever. It's only on iPhone. And so Aubrey Marcus is like working out in the gym at the hotel. And he said he suddenly, and there's two instances of this, we need to get to both of them. He said he suddenly kind of heard this voice or had this feeling that
spirit spoke to him.
Yeah, like I need to open up the Raya app. And he caveats it with, I'm not, I don't usually look at my phone while I'm working out. When I'm working out, I'm working out. And I believe him on that part. Okay. Because I can be the same way. Like when I'm working out, like I'm in the fucking zone. Okay. And he opens it up, he goes to the Raya app and he looks, and now he says that he swipes at least a couple times, and it's like, wait, like the voice told you to open up the Raya app, and yet it wasn't the first person you saw you swipe through, like that comes off as like, oh, the first one, ooh, kind of ugly, moved on.
Maybe spirit was telling you to look at that first person.
Yeah, right.
You're like, are you sure?
Yeah, exactly.
You're questioning spirit.
Yeah. And so he chooses Alana as he swipes through, however many swipes that happen, or whatever it equates to on the Raya app. I don't know. I don't use it. Okay.
I think he said 2, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. First off, let's talk about this. Okay.
I know you have a problem with this part.
Yeah. Well, this is just a tough thing to go by for a multitude of reasons. Okay. Do I think that there are what could be called spiritual forces, or energies or entities that could speak to you in your head and, maybe influence you to do something in this way, in the way that Aubrey Marcus described? Yeah, sure there is. Do they do it out of benevolence, or do they do it for their own selfish purposes? It could go either way. So I'm open to these ideas. I'm not saying that, oh, he's crazy for listening to his gut, or listening to a voice in his head, or some kind of spiritual force that he felt he encountered, or something like that. I don't think that's crazy. The swiping part and whoa, well, I gotta choose first, make sure they fit my profiles and stuff like that. If the idea was that you were being inspired to meet this person who's supposed to be a part of your life, there's so many factors within that are how can you know for sure what exactly this, shall we say, spiritual force was intending for me?
How can you know that it was a spiritual force to begin with that was telling you to do that?
Right.
Because sometimes people have impulses to partake in behavior that gives them a little boost of dopamine.
Yeah.
Like opening certain apps sometimes kind of feels like playing a lottery game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is one of the things where, I will pull from the Bible because it actually has wisdom in this instance, but test the spirits. That's just, but that's not just in the Bible. That is black magic 101. That is mysticism 101. You test the spirits. he took no time to do such a thing if he felt that he was getting some kind of like spiritual contact. Okay. And, how do you test the spirits? Well, I mean, to some degree, that depends. All right. But you definitely don't go on your gut when you know that the spiritual forces and he's talked about this, like he knows better. He knows there's what he would call, I mean, I don't think there's good and evil, but he knows what he would call good and evil out there. Right. And, he didn't take the time like to do that, to question it, and to like feel it and look, or at least based upon what he said. So that part's kind of weird. Do you have thoughts on that part of it, Ellen?
Yeah, I mean, again, I just wonder what... So, he said that spirit spoke to him. I think most people experience similar things. They might not label it that.
Yeah.
Just feeling an impulse to do something. Or maybe you hear a little voice in your head telling you to do something. Yeah, you don't know what that could be. That could be your biology pushing you to do something. Or it could be an external motivational force.
Right.
It's hard to say. If they did exist, why is it so far out of the realm of possibility that they could be influencing electronics or, I guess, like radio signals?
Sure.
If they exist in energetic form, isn't that kind of the most likely place where they would manifest?
That's a possibility. That is a big subject to get into. And certainly people have thought this well before there were smartphones, like white noise and televisions, things like this. Of course, a very famous Michael Keaton movie around that.
Yeah, that's why ghost hunters always use like audio recording devices.
Exactly.
Or video cameras.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So again, this part of the story just comes off. I mean, look, if you say you encounter someone, and this might speak to some things we get into a little later on here. If you encounter somebody who you just have like this feeling about, it doesn't have to be a spirit that told you, oh, I want to be with this person.
No, it's their spirit. It's them.
Yeah, it could be right. It would be them, or you could just, it could be simple things like they smell good, even unconsciously, like you don't even recognize how good their smell is. It's just something that works for you based upon, your entire makeup.
Yeah, there could be like a million subconscious signals that they're sending to you, but that's just part of who they are.
Yeah, right.
Speaking to you directly.
Right. But that doesn't work over an app,
No, not over an app.
Yeah. So, there doesn't have to be a, mystical aspect, to the whole thing. I could even say that him just working out, gets your blood flowing. It does for me. Like when I work out, if I do want to pick up my phone, usually it's because I want to send you, Ellen, I want to send you some like porn gif or something. You know what I mean?
At the public gym, Brian? That's indecent.
Yeah. It is. And, we engage in that a lot. Anyway.
So what if, have you ever considered the perspective that like maybe Alana, when she created her account, which she said that she did like within a day or two of them meeting, like what if just her having some sort of intention, like I want to meet a really special person, was powerful enough to, I don't know, guide that action? Yeah,
and it was just an interaction basically between the two of them, or the three of them, if Ilana was to be accounted, among this. And it was just something that she drew in, kind of master key system style. Yeah, sure. That's, I'm very open to that, and if that's the claim, I just would have loved Aubrey Marcus to explain more, like, okay, like, tell me more about what the spirit was telling you. Like, you got to give me more than that, because just saying that straight, yes, a lot of interactions with the, shall we say, mystical realm, are something that only you can understand, and sometimes can't even be put into language. But I feel like he could have done better there, So I just want to be clear, like, I'm defending their relationship choice, but like, yeah, there's parts of this that just come off kind of weird. But do you have a comment? Did I answer your question?
Yeah. I think I'd like to move on to the next point.
Yeah, so they start dating. They have a good time. They go through a ritual that Aubrey Marcus claims was part of the lineage, kind of rediscovered. That was the very brief part that I got. That is my understanding. It's called the God Bomb. My understanding is it uses ketamine and some other stuff. okay, some people criticize saying that, like, well, he put Alana, not Vylana, but Alana into a very vulnerable state through the use of entheogens, and that, she's basically being puppeteered, through this whole thing.
Vylana was, what was she doing? Playing music and singing while this was happening?
I think so. Yeah. I don't know what this ritual is. I've heard about it before, and we have like some idea of what gets done with it. But again, having rituals that use entheogens, if you've listened to other episodes of Sexoterica, that's nothing new for Ellen and I. I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with that. It can be an incredibly beautiful and obviously very healthy thing, for, multiple aspects, both for the individuals and the relationship itself.
Yeah, it's just not something I would do with somebody on, like, the second or third date.
Yeah, I don't know if that was, like, the greatest choice for Alana to, like, just dive in on this, like, ritual. But...
No, I think we've got to know each other for, like, a good few months first.
Yeah.
Before I'm willing to do that level of drugs with someone.
Right. Even though, I agree. And I mean, I guess, this is the thing with that Raya app, which is, that's a whole other conversation that could be had. But I think that because of the exclusivity of it, it can create probably a very faux trust, a false sense of trust. Because, not just anybody can get on there. Like, you have to have a huge Instagram following. There's all kinds of things you have to be able to get that. But regardless, yeah, I agree with you. Like, that part's odd. So moving on from that, we end up in this is, I guess, months later, and they end up on a trip to Egypt, which, hey, good for them. But the three of them go there. And Aubrey, during this time, and he's been open about this in the past, that he's been trying to have a child with Vylana, who is now his wife. He goes there, and he goes into the Temple of Isis, a Egyptian Holy of Holies, for sure, and he again claims to have a mystical experience where a spirit says to him, you will have children through both women. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what happens. And he said he responds with, like, what? That's not the deal that I made with Vylana. That this is not going to be okay. And apparently it bothers him for a very long time. Finally, he tells Vylana what happened. She flips the fuck out, understandably. And then months go by. Alana, like, is on her own for a little bit, but they all kind of come back together. And then, this whole situation is a trial by fire, proves their love, and they go forward. Okay. The part I want to talk about is, again, now look, I firmly believe that if you go to Egypt, and especially you go into some of those temples or the pyramids or whatever, that you could end up having an incredibly powerful, genuine spiritual experience. Doesn't mean that it's benevolent, inherently benevolent, but yes, you could have that. But this is another thing where, like, man, did you do anything to test those spirits? like, did you really question that at all? Like, and that feels like a spirit telling you must have a child through both women. Like, that comes off as so biblical, and I use that in a pejorative sense. Like, it comes off a little messianic, a little thinking highly of oneself. That the spirits actually give a shit about, who you have children with and how many children you have.
So you're wishing that he had asked more questions, like, who am I speaking to?
Yeah.
Why would I want to do this? What am I supposed to say to Vylana?
Yeah, totally. Again, the relationship itself, no problem. No issue. Having, children with multiple women, no problem. Like, that's fine. In my head, great.
Guys do it all the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. At least Aubrey's honest.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is another scenario where, like, man, like, did you question this at all? Like, what did you do to verify that what you're supposed to do is something that is actually in your best interest?
Yeah, because it sounds like he just accepted it.
Right.
Like, he just heard it and he was like, oh, okay.
Right.
Well,
I mean, he said,
shit.
Yeah. I mean, he says he's troubled by it because he wouldn't tell Vylana about it originally. But, like, what did you do to test? What did you do to verify? What did you do to make sure? And yeah, the mystical realm can be hard to verify things. I get that inherently by its very nature. I understand these things. but there are things one can do, and like you can wait for, another biblical concept. Okay. And when I say biblical, I mean like the Hebrew stuff, not the later crap, or I mean, sorry, the later stuff. I shouldn't say crap, even if I agree with it. So what you, like where 2 or 3 witnesses agree, there's where you find the truth. So this is a concept out of Torah. To quote the song, can I get a witness? You know what I mean? Like, can I get a second opinion? like the spiritual world can work like the medical world. Can I get a second opinion, please, doctor? Like, do I really need to have it? And we get no sense of that whatsoever. So like, even in the, kind of spiritual community that he is a decently major figure in, I don't think he did enough to assuage a lot of people's concerns. And I've listened to some of the episodes where he has like done his responses, and none of this has ever come up. Like he's never gone further on like, look, tell us what the hell happened there. If you want people to believe it, it's an amazing time to give people proof or some kind of proof of, the power of the spiritual realm. You know what I mean? I mean, like, Ellen, what do you think? I feel like I'm going all over here.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, and I tend to agree with you. I think that there could have been more of a focus on understanding the message and also the messenger. And I also want to know, like, did he take the time to sit with himself and ask himself if this is what he really wants?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like he did not feel like he wanted this.
Right.
But he thought that he had to do it. Like he was being given a commandment that he had to follow. And if that's something that he really believes, then I don't know that... I just feel like there's a certain level of enlightenment that you have to achieve in order to understand that you don't have to follow orders, even if it is coming from a spirit.
Bravo. Yes, you're completely right. Thou art God. Like, and maybe he doesn't believe that. Maybe he thinks that there are forces that he just can't say no to. But I would disagree. You can always argue. I mean, in fact, in Judaism, like, arguing with God is what makes one quote unquote holy. So like when Abraham says, no, what if I can find one person, God? If I can find one person, you're not going to burn this fucker to the ground. And God's like, all right. And so, I mean, not that there's a God, but I hope people get the point. Like, arguing with these things, like, it is part of the process, okay, of making you more powerful. You are a co-creator. You are a God as well. So yeah, your point is spot on. Again, it's not that I doubt that. I mean, it could have happened that way. But like, I don't hear where there's any testing of this. So it just comes off as, it comes off as like the whims of one's cock. It really does. I hate to say that because, again, I'm defending the guy. Like, he doesn't need me to do it. But like, I'm all for him having this relationship. I'm all for all of that. I'm just saying, like, boy, there are things that should have been talked about that were not. Do you have more comment on that?
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering, like, why are you defending him? Do you want to talk more about, like, your perspective or our perspective on why we would defend Aubrey Marcus and Vailana's choice to invite Alana into their relationship?
Yeah, well done. Yeah, that's part of it, is that, like, this reaction, like, as much as it affects them, most importantly indirectly, like, it also feels like, oh, wow, so there's a whole lot of people that are going to think you and I are strange, Ellen. And
yeah, it's personal for us, I guess. Right. This whole conversation is.
Yeah.
Because we also fall into that realm of non-traditional relationships.
Sure. And I mean, and I firmly believe, I got to come up with another word because I hate believe. Believe means that, like, somehow, oh, there's room for doubt. No, there's no room for doubt. Okay. In what I'm about to say.
You have conviction.
Yeah, conviction might be the good word there. I like that. Okay. That, our relationship absolutely has a mystical component.
Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Exactly.
Like, I think I've told you this before, but I saw you as the man of my dreams before I even met you.
Right. And this is a long time ago.
Yes. Yeah.
Like way before you ever met me. Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, speaking of like say, potentially, the mystical realm speaking through electronics. I've told you that, like, I made a character. I know this sounds so stupid, but I made a character on SmackDown 2. This is in the 90s, on the PlayStation 1. And it looked just like you. Like, it was insane. When I saw it, I'm like, what the hell? Like, I mean, just stopped me in my tracks. So, we both had that kind of experience. And, those are, I wouldn't call them simple, but those are just, very quick aspects of the mystical aspect of our, of our relationship.
Yeah. I mean, that's not even to mention that I was like just drawn to you immediately when I heard your podcast or when I met you in person. It just felt like the more we knew each other, the more we got to know each other, the more we already knew each other.
Yeah, exactly. But we had to go through our own trials and our own, like, even growing up period, when we moved to New Hampshire. It wasn't the Raya app. I didn't meet you on Tinder,
No way.
like nothing like that. And so there's the concern of that like, oh, well, when you bring up, like, again, I'm not saying I necessarily doubt Aubrey Marcus, but you've got to give people more on like the mystical justifications of what you're doing, and I really think that was very important to do, and he wouldn't go there. And I'm worried that there might have been a lack of courage there. I don't know, but regardless, that bothers me, because then when I discuss, because like two things here for you and I is when, like if I discuss the mystical aspects of our relationship, it's going to be met with, it should be met with some trepidation. It should be met with like, wait, really? Like some degree of disbelief. I'm okay with that. But it's something that, and it's part of the reason we're doing this podcast, and I mean the podcast series overall, Sexoterica overall, is because this does play into relationships, but most people don't have the framework, the scaffolding, even the terminology to discuss that. Okay. And so it just gets met with incredulity, it just gets met with disbelief, to the point that like, oh, you people are crazy. And it's like, no, we're not crazy, because we can justify all this with science as much as we can with mysticism. It doesn't matter. We don't even need science for that. It's just fucking love. And that's the other part is, our love, we have, and we've been talking about this all weekend, because it's like, okay, what terms do we use? Aubrey, Vailana, and Alana, they came up with a term, radical monogamy, and Mark Gaffney was there as well, and they were calling it radical monogamy, meaning that it's not polyamory, but it's not monogamy. It's something, it's like monogamy plus. It's something a little bit more, whatever that ends up being. And I don't know like the great term to say for you and I, Ellen, of like, what is our relationship like? People call it, say open relationship, but that's far too vague for me.
Yeah, you're right. And to get into the specifics, I mean, if we want to try and put a definition on it, like you and I, we have a primary bond.
Yeah.
So like, even if either of us were to start like seeing somebody else, like me and you, we live together. We are married. We are going to be together forever. Like, these things are not in question ever.
Right.
But if we wanted to like expand our circle of love, so to speak,
yes.
I guess that's something that we would be open to if it was the right person, if it was the right situation.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, this is a part that wasn't gotten into with, and I'm not saying they're doing it wrong. That's not what I'm saying, because again, this is one of the points we're getting at. There's so many different permutations of relationships. Human existence is so dynamic. Like the idea that there's only like monogamy or polyamory or something, like, no, there's so many different ways that this could work. Okay. That people could find, fulfillment, satisfaction, love, support, all those things that we want in our human experience.
Yeah.
And it can happen in a lot of different ways.
And I guess we should share some of the relationship history that we have. I mean,
sure.
You have a lot more than me. Like I've been in a series of monogamous heterosexual relationships. I was also in a lesbian relationship for a period of time.
Yep.
And then I attempted polyamory, but it did not last very long at all. It ended very badly. But that was all before I was with you.
Right.
And ever since we've been together, it's just been me and you.
Yeah. Yeah. Though with, I've always made the statement from the moment that, we started dating that, like I only had one rule in our relationship. And I've talked about this on the show before, but, and that one rule is like, no man can touch you without my permission. But none of that is saying you can't have that there can't be a relationship with another man, that there can't be a relationship with a woman, that there can't, that there can't be more, right?
Yeah, you just have to be in agreement with it.
Yeah, yeah. And the reason for that, it's not just controlling and it's not my ego. It's that when two people enter a relationship, a third being gets created. It really does. And you actually become that, you really become that third being. So,
and this is the spiritual element to relationships you're talking about?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because I don't think there's any scientific way to describe it for sure. But that you are basically, when someone wants to, when you're in a relationship as deep as yours and mine is, and there's different depths of relationships that people have, friends with benefits and dating that's not so structured, whatever. Okay, like there's a million different ways that this could be, a million different depths. But when you're at the depth that you and I are at, here's the thing. When somebody wants to, say, engage you or engage me at a romantic level, like you're not just engaging me.
It's both of us.
It's both of us. We're one person now.
Yeah, anything that happens to you affects me and
Exactly.
vice versa.
Exactly, yeah. So, most people don't understand that. And it's one of the most important, I think people might intuitively understand it.
Yeah, I think most people understand that's kind of the idea of like family or empathy,
Right.
But when it's applied to relationships, I think it becomes a lot more muddied, like the idea that these two people are that intricately connected.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I think that like there's some understanding of that, but then the problem is they don't, even if they understand it, they don't respect it. And
yeah, they just want to follow their own wishes.
Exactly. I mean, talk about whims of the cock. Like, I mean, that's
yeah,
what's happening there.
They become selfish.
Yeah, exactly. And like, there's just this, I mean, to my mind, there are protocols for people to follow if they're interested in you. Okay. And they're not my protocols, but we don't have to get lost on that conversation. But the bottom line being, at the very least that anybody can do is show the respect and understanding. Like, I mean, I don't go and like spend time alone with someone else's wife. You know what I mean? Like,
and then like, don't tell the husband about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I totally agree with you on this. Like, I have always kind of felt out of respect to the person that I care about, the person that I might be friends with or interested in or whatever. Right. Like, the special people in their lives, if I care about this person, I should also care about them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It just seems to make sense to me. And I always want to ensure that I'm on good terms with those other people who are close to the person that I'm interested in or that I like.
Yeah.
And that's just respect. I feel like that's basic respect.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, I go so far, like, I don't even like text people solo unless I'm like, someone is like, there's an understanding. People are aware. Yes. Like, I'm texting this person about something or whatever. Like, there's just so many ways to show respect to everybody that's involved in the other relationship. Do so, and I get very annoyed when people do not do that. Now, I mean, recently, like we've had multiple scenarios at this point where someone was clearly interested in you, Ellen.
Yeah, and before we get into that, I
Sure.
mean, do you just want to talk about your polyamorous experience previously? I mean, you don't have to go into depth, but just share a brief tidbit about it.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, my experience is holy hell. I've done a little too much. I feel like there were some wild years. Okay. I mean, I was engaged in polyamory as a teenager before the term polyamory was a thing. You know, it was just like...
So it's been part of your life longer than it hasn't, basically.
Yes. Overall, I mean, I had a previous marriage that went about 7 years. But beyond that, actually, it's almost always been non-monogamous, if I'm to use that blanket term. Like that's just always been the case. And so because of my amount of experience, though, like I have very specific ways, like there's different ways, but I don't like the word polyamory either. Like when you and I got together, like I totally understand why Aubrey Marcus was like, this isn't polyamory, you know, because that comes with so many different assumptions. It comes with so much baggage.
There is a lot of baggage.
Yeah. So like when we got into a relationship, you know, you and I was like, we're not polyamorous. Like that's not what's happening.
The
here.
relationship that you were in prior, like you call it polyamorous, but you weren't having relationships with a bunch of people. It was just open for your partner to do so.
That's about how it worked. And I mean, and when the time came for me to have, you know, shall we say the open door, and it wasn't allowed, that's part of what led to an end to that.
Yeah, and that's really just not fair.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my point, is that like everybody's got to be considered. You know, I mean, like, you know, there has to be, like, I love what Aubrey consistently said in the episode. It was like no, you know, like it's never what's good for me isn't good for thee. Like it's always got to be, you know, very open and equitable. I'll say equitable, you know, and like that there's very clear understanding, you know, very simple rules, simple understandings of how things work, you know. Not that I like a bunch of rules. Again, I only have one.
Right.
So, but
keeps
that's
things so simple for me.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, so I have plenty of experience, and a lot of it was successful, honestly. Like it's not like it was all bad, you know. Some of it was very beautiful at times. But I mean, I was certainly engaged in it at a time when clearly humanity was even far less prepared for something beyond, you know, monogamy, or something that would just get tossed into Mormonism or something like that. So yeah, that's my experiences. I am not new at this. So bottom line, I have plenty of experience, too much experience in this space, too many years, you know, doing all of this. So, you know, and like, yes, that can lead me to forget that when other people say want to enter the circle, as you said earlier, Ellen, you know, that like I can forget that, oh, they don't know, they don't understand, you know what I mean? And I just have these assumptions of how I am supposed to be respected because we also have what would colloquially be called like a master-slave relationship. And there's a way that I'm to be approached and a way you're not to be approached, you know, and people just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, so if I could just give some perspective too,
Please.
on like the libertarian history that we have with polyamorous people.
Yeah.
Like, so it's very common in that circle, which is why outside of libertarianism, it's kind of shocking that people don't know about it, because inside of that realm, it's just ubiquitous. I mean, like almost, I shouldn't say almost everybody, but there are so many people in that community that partake in the polyamory community.
Right.
And it's kind of amazing how much it overlaps. But the reason that you and I say that term has baggage is because of those people that we have known, especially in, I guess, the last decade in the libertarian community. Mm-hmm. Just not really being good examples of how polyamory works, because the relationships that I've seen, at the very least, and I guess you can share your perspective too, but I'm going to guess it's going to be similar to what I'm saying. They're not successful relationships in the sense that they burn brightly and hotly and very quickly, and then they fall apart.
Yep. Yeah, no, totally. And it's incredibly similar. Like, I mean, and we don't have to, I don't necessarily need to get into what's behind it, but yeah, like if you know, went to say like a libertarian community, because it's not just in New Hampshire. I mean, like there used to be one in North Carolina and all these other places. And like, you can see, like you could just see the trauma on display. I mean, it's just so fucking bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the people who are partaking in this community were people who like, oof, you just know, like they are not healthy to be around.
Right. I mean, you're just not seeing healthy expressions of this stuff. Now, I'm not saying that it's not there, but, and I believe that it is probably, but also you don't see those people and you don't hear from them. Why? Because they're fucking happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like they don't have to be out there like reaching out for other people and trying to sleep with as many people as they can. I mean, we had an old joke, years ago that like it's supposed to be polyamory, not polyfuckery. And like, and the reason that joke existed because for most people it was just polyfuckery.
Yeah.
It's just, oh yeah, I want like somebody comfortable to come home to, but then I just want to sleep around like crazy. Mm-hmm. And this is guy and gal. Like I'm not in Z even, I'm not like singling out, one gender here. But that's what we often encountered. And I think part of the problem is that like with polyamory, again, it's too broad of a thing. Like there's no real definite, like some people have finer definitions of polyamory where they talk about polyamory as in like open table, closed table, like there's these different types. And it's always hilarious when we go to libertarian events and there would be whole like, rooms or tents where you could go to, and there would be entire conversations around here's how to practice polyamory, and it's like, well, I'm pretty sure I'm just supposed to practice however my heart feels, but okay.
No, you just have to read The Ethical Slut and then you're ready to go. That's all you need.
Oh boy.
I do appreciate, I had some of the most open and honest conversations about sex and relationships with polyamorous people that I've ever had. And I love that. I mean, I really appreciate that these people were just honest about their motivations, and that they were honest about how it works for them. Because, like, most people that I grew up around, they'd never talk about this stuff. But you go to a polyamorous event, or like an event where people who are practicing polyamory are in attendance.
Yeah.
And, just having a conversation with them, they're like, yeah, I wanted to, have sex with this person, and we did. And it's just, like, not a big deal.
Right.
They're just very, I don't want to say abrasive, but, like, they're just forthright. Yeah. Very forthright. And that, I think, was inspirational to me. So I don't want to talk entirely negatively about that.
Sure.
But, it's not healthy if you're just constantly seeking attention to fill a void in your life, Like, if you're truly happy, you don't need to do that.
Yeah. I mean, and I've made this comment, even years ago, that for a lot of people, like, polyamory is a reaction to, I can't find a person who, a singular person who compliments me and satisfies me, Oh,
and that's such a common line in that community too, is like, no one person can be everything to you. So you have to get multiple people to fill all of those needs. Right.
But I don't think, and I'm not going to say that that's not like a valid thing to do, perhaps, but at the same time, like, no, believe me, the person is out there. Okay. For you. And also I have to say this very quickly. Look, if you don't want to be in a relationship, for fuck's sake, don't. Like that. Yeah. Like, that's fine. If you're like, man, I am too much to handle, like I am not ready for a relationship, or I don't know if I ever really want one or if that's the right path for me, baby, beautiful. And I mean,
take some time to work on yourself.
Yes. So beautiful.
Learn to love yourself.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I mean, and this is a part of it too. When you do want to get in a relationship, I think it's a good idea to have done that work on yourself. That doesn't mean every relationship's going to be perfect ever, or that like you should, I shouldn't have a relationship until, I've gone through all of Nathaniel Brandon's works or something like that. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying,
you're never going to reach a peak of perfection where you're ready to get into a relationship.
Right. But what I am saying is that if you want to get into that relationship that is the long term, and certainly one if you plan on having children, for fuck's sake, then yes, you need to do the work on yourself before you get to that. Like, you need to know, that this is the way, this is on point for you. And I think that one person can exist. That doesn't mean even when you find that one person that you can't, again, expand that circle as well. That's totally valid. But again, that just speaks to the overall point. The term polyamory basically means nothing. Like it's gotten to the point that you have no idea. Like people say that word and it's just,
there's a lot of different meanings.
Yeah, they might
to
as
that
well,
word.
Exactly. They might as well just say unicorn farts because like it's just as ethereal.
A unicorn is a thing in a polyamorous relationship.
Good point. Okay, so
I think that's a term that I might have used to describe Alana in Vylana and Aubrey Marcus' case.
Yeah. So, yes. But so we've had, our experiences where, I mean, me, like Ellen, like you are, I'll use these colloquialisms. You are so much woman. Like, what the fuck? You. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to go out there and find like a better deal, of a gal. Like I'm going to better deal you somehow. No, that's not going to happen. Or like somehow, oh, but my cock needs to be pleasured more. What? Folks, I don't think you understand what our sex life is like. No. So like, I am not, this is the thing, even though, like we both have the opportunities to, expand the circle or whatever, I'm just not interested. Like, I don't care.
Right.
I mean, I want you to experience, there's a very special experience. First off I will say yes, with other women as well, of course, because I think women can do things to other women that only women can do. Like that's just a reality.
They just have a better understanding of the female biology.
100%.
And what feels good.
Exactly. And I don't care how great a lover a guy is, a woman's better.
I think women are better kissers, for sure.
Yep, I'm a terrible kisser. I can absolutely admit that. So you don't have to say anything, Ellen. It's fine.
I'm not saying you're bad. I'm just saying women are better.
Yeah. No, totally. Okay. So, but also with men, like there is because I've seen it, where a woman being, sexually engaged with multiple men, like, boy, talk about a spiritual experience. Like, I mean, there is something else when a gal is, getting spit roasted, whatever, and sorry for using such raw terms. Okay. But and you can see it in her eyes. You can feel it, like the whole body is alive, And so like, that's part of the reason where I'm not saying to you, okay, cause I could say this, I am the master. I can say like, no, we're monogamous. This is it. But I'm not closing that door, because I also know how powerful and how wonderful that experience can be. And also for me, like when I am with a guy, or, I'm not with a guy, but like as in when another man, like when I feel like, oh, buddy, like, like brother, wait till you experience what my wife can do, like when I'm getting to share that experience with another man, like that's beautiful. Like, I mean, it's talk about brotherhood. Like people talk about how like, oh, when you go to, like you never have a true brother until you like go to war with another man or something. No, let me tell you something. You never have a true brother until, you're getting it on with the gal at the same time with him. So that's a very powerful thing. Okay. And, like it's something that I want you to be able to experience whenever the opportunity, arises.
Yeah. And in addition to that conversation, I think prior to that, we had a conversation about, what would it be like to just close the door and say, oh, we're just monogamous, that I feel like that's kind of it's a really closed-minded perspective that I think the majority of my relationships have had, where, we believe that we kind of own each other in a way, and there's this like insecurity and jealousy and this feeling of like, oh, I might lose this person, but I'm not going to lose them because they belong to me, and I'm not going to let them talk to other women that they might be attracted to, or, vice versa, where like if I'm interacting with a person who's maybe a friend of mine who's a man, my partner can't handle or tolerate their own feelings of insecurity. So they try to control my behavior by, being very unhappy whenever I did spend time with that person. So I think you and I have talked about this kind of at length because, like, I came into our relationship, you know, having some level of relational trauma, and I think we all do.
Sure.
But it was important for us to, like, talk through that, to understand where all of that came from. And like you said just a minute ago, like, what, am I gonna one-up you by, like, going out and finding someone hotter or more attractive or whatever?
Not
like,
possible.
I've been with guys who thought that they could.
I mean, that's just insane. I mean, like, anybody who I ever, you know, like, ask about, you know, I mean, like, they all, everybody calls you a supermodel. Like, you are that fucking hot. like that's just it. You are always the hottest person in the room.
Thank you. I just have had experiences that make me feel like that's not entirely true.
Well,
you know, because, like, there's always a bigger fish out there.
Yeah, no. I mean, yes, I understand where you're coming from. You know,
I mean, just from, like, a stereotypical background of not having exposure to a wider variety of different types of love, you know? Or even just feeling empowered as an individual to love myself and believe in myself, you know? Because I hear what you're saying, and it's very kind and sweet, and I just never believed that I was that worthy or that powerful. And that is partially because nobody ever told me I was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was with you that, you know, you're telling me these things, like, all the time. I really started to believe it. Like, I don't know if my head's getting bigger or it's just, like, getting to me, but, like, I'm starting to believe, like, oh, okay, I actually am super hot and I am this amazing person that's, like, everybody should love me.
Yeah, as they should.
And I'm not saying should as in, like, you have to.
Yeah, you're Galadriel, you know. Everyone will love me. Fear me.
No, I just mean that, like, I am worthy of love. And whether you choose to love me or not, I guess, you know, that's your choice. But, like, I have come to understand that I do deserve to be treated well, and that when people care about me and I care about them, very powerful things can happen.
Right.
So I guess it's just more of an internal perspective. Like, I'm not putting my expectations on the external world. It's more of just, like, yeah, I do believe that I'm a lovable, worthwhile person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're speaking to a lot of insecurities, and I think, or you're speaking to insecurity in the abstract. Okay. And I think that this is a big part of, like, what goes on with this. I mean, even with that, you know, the podcast we were talking about, like, people's responses, like, you can just see the insecurities.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Like, they're just like, oh, you know, like, this is what scares them. This is what makes them afraid of people's completely, like, choices that are theirs to make. You know, are their own insecurities on display.
Yeah, and just coming from that background, that perspective of, like, I've gone through the struggle with my insecurities and I came out on top.
Yep.
Like, anytime I hear about a relationship where one person is like, I don't feel comfortable with you talking to so-and-so, that's insecurity.
Yeah.
They have work they need to do on themselves.
Yeah.
And, you know, whether they choose to do it or not, that's up to them. But I just want everyone to heal from that, because the world is so full of insecurity and hatred and people feeling like they need to compete with each other to have enough love.
Right.
Like, it's just not true. Like, there's enough love to go around for everyone.
Yeah.
We just need to love ourselves first and foremost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, so, and that's so beautifully said.
Thank you.
So the experiences, you know, that we've encountered with other guys, I don't even want to say wanting to enter the circle, because I don't think they wanted to enter the circle. they wanted to pull you out of the circle.
Yeah, and that's a totally different thing.
Right, exactly.
That's that selfish perspective we referenced earlier.
Yeah, and it's not going to happen. So
no, it's not.
Right. So part of the, like, what I have encountered with these situations is just that rampant insecurity, and it eventually, like, happens. Like, here's the thing. So I have a mode of operation, a saying it's a very old saying, but like that, you give somebody enough rope. Okay. I think that a person, like, you give somebody okay. So just as an example, a sociopath can hold out for about a year until they crack.
Maybe for average people, I don't know. I feel like I have a sociopath detector. I can
yes.
tell within a few days.
Absolutely. I'm just saying, like at best, they can go a year and then they crack. Okay. Now, in general, like if somebody is like, I don't expect people to know the shit I know. I don't expect people to be into the things that I like. I don't expect it for people to be into the things I'm into, whatever. If somebody's trying to kind of befriend me or, whatever they're trying to do, they're trying to enter the circle. Okay. Like I'll give them enough rope, let them do their thing.
Sure.
And it's up to them whether or not they hang themselves with it. And if they never do, then guess what? After a long enough timeline, hey man, welcome to the circle. Love to have you, Okay. But it honestly rarely ever happens, I mean, and that's not to say, like, we have friends who have their own beautiful relationships. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And man, they can ask pretty much anything of me, and this is, yeah, I know you and I were both like, how do we want this conversation to go? Like the easiest way for me to find out if somebody, like, do I even have to bother with the rope? The easiest way for me to find out is for them. Let me see you with another woman, let me see that person. Let me see that guy with a gal, how do they treat that gal? Because it's like the old saying about, like, how does a son treat their mother? Like, you can tell so much about them and whether or not they're good marrying material or something like that. Now, that's a bit conventional for my taste, but the point is the same. Like, let me see how they treat another woman and I'll know how well they're going to treat mine. And it's so funny because in both scenarios that we ran into recently, we never got to experience the gal, even though they were in relationships, with someone else.
Yeah.
And like, that's an instant red flag for me. Mm-hmm. To be like, what are you afraid of? Like, no, let's all go to dinner. Let's all go have a good time. Let's all go have fun. Oh, you don't want us to meet them. That's weird. And, things like that. Like, and again, what it is, what we said earlier, it's insecurities ending up on display very quickly in that.
Yeah, and that's something that you might have more awareness of than I do, because you have that male perspective.
Sure.
That, like, maybe I can come to understand, but I haven't had the same experiences that you do.
Sure.
Or that you have. And for me, like, I'm hearing explanations and justifications, and I believe the person, like, oh, mm-hmm. This is why I can't interact with this other person. Mm-hmm. This is why she won't talk to me, or he won't put me in touch with her, or he hasn't had a conversation with her because whatever.
Right.
Like, I just hear these explanations and I give these people the benefit of the doubt because I like to believe that people are ultimately good. And especially if it's somebody who's my friend, I want to, hear all of these things in good faith.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, you are a good person, Like,
well, I'm a very caring and empathetic person,
yes,
and
you
I'm
are.
a good listener.
Yes.
But you, on the other hand, and I'm not saying you aren't any of those things because you are for sure. But I trust you to make the right decision, and if you tell me that you don't trust somebody for whatever reason, I have to believe you. I have to allow that to exist.
Yeah.
And I have to accept it. And, like, I want you to be able to maintain your standards.
Yeah.
It's so important to me. I don't want you to have to compromise on anything or to feel uncomfortable about anything.
Right.
And so, like, when you are holding me back, in a sense, from like, allowing someone into the circle, so to speak, like, it's for a good reason. And that, I think, is, like, my number one commitment is to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why even if I don't understand why you don't trust somebody, I will listen to you. Because, like, I trust you more than anyone in the world.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And of course, all of that would go both ways, a point I want to bring. I mean, yeah, like I know that I don't want to necessarily say it's a problem. I just know I have a default of where I do think most people are inherently good in the sense that most people, they act within self-interest. They want what they want. They want a healthy, they want a relationship. They want to feel love. They want to feel, all these other things. Okay. And so they're acting within those auspices, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. So in that sense, I think, all people are quote unquote, or most people are quote unquote good. Obviously there are sociopaths, psychopaths, and all of that. Okay. But in general, even when I think about that way with people, I do assume malevolence. Like, like I very much, especially when like there's, say a guy is trying to enter our lives and like we have no shared like interest or frame of reference. Like, no, I feel like there's only one goal here.
Yeah, maybe you're right. And the goal is just to separate me from you. Yeah.
Yeah. Or just to get with you and have some like kind of affair with you. But again, in the way that you and I do relationships, and we don't have a word like radical monogamy. I don't know what the word would be yet. Okay?
We have radical honesty.
We do it. Yes. Yeah. Actually, Aubrey Marcus in another podcast said he said he felt radical monogamy was the wrong word. He should have gone with radical fidelity. I think that's a great term, to use. Okay. Because yes, you and I have radical honesty. Okay. But again,
and what I mean by that is that we tell each other how we're feeling or what we're thinking, and we don't, we reserve judgment until the other person is, gotten it out. And I think like just not having a fear of talking about some of these more taboo subjects, that is something that's so special to our relationship. I think it's very unique. Most people don't have that.
100%.
They can't talk about like feeling attracted to another person with their primary partner.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I loved how you were talking about like me holding you back. And I love that. That's how I want you to be. I want you to be like, yes, holy shit. Like I want all the cocks, like I want it all. I want to experience, like Angelina Jolie said, I want to taste every man in the world. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like this idea of you are such a fucking goddess, such a powerful being. I want it all. And I love that.
Thank you.
Okay. Like I want that for you. But then, what happens is when you want it all, and this is true all the way up and all the way down, all the turtles. Okay. When you want that, you end up losing yourself because you just become a part of like everything. And I don't want you to lose yourself. And so
I don't want that either.
Right. Right. And I know you love yourself. And that's the thing is, I mean, that's a huge part of this that I want to get into is that like, ultimately what we're getting at is that, okay, you want to come into the circle, you better be somebody that loves yourself all the way. Like you better be fucking enamored with yourself because you can't love us if you are not radically in love with yourself. And I don't mean that in some like, I don't know, Nicole Kidman nonsense kind of way, you know what I mean? Where like clearly you just want to be in front of the camera all the time or something.
And you not
need
full of yourself.
Not full of yourself. It's not that you love yourself so much and so you need validation from everybody else. It's you love yourself so much that you could just sit in complete peace like the Buddha, and be content because you feel your own wholeness, and so,
yeah, and there's no cockiness involved with this. I mean, like you have that, but I think that's, your performance.
It is a performance. It is a performance.
But like, there's a way to love yourself and also love other people and recognize that like, while you are the most important person in the world, so is everyone else.
Right. Yeah. I want you to love yourself like you love your favorite dish, where you just take the time with it and you just savor it and you just taste it and you don't go too fast. And it's just like you enjoy life so much you feel it in every part of your being. That's what I mean by someone loving themselves. It's not that full of themselves kind of thing. Anyway, don't want to get necessarily lost on that. Okay. So, but I want you to like want to experience all of these things, but I can't let you get lost in it either, And so that expression, that, again, that's where I come in to like, look at like, oh, I don't know. Like my point is, I'm okay with you. Like, this is where a lot of relationships fail, is that if a gal says she's attracted to another guy, and she could just be saying it totally flippantly, she's like, you're sitting together in the mall or something and you see a hot guy walk by and she's like, oh, he's cute. And the guy just loses his shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Or like, who are you texting?
Yeah.
Who are you messaging?
Yeah. As to where if the guy, like, you know, again, to use the term, loved himself, what would he be afraid of? Because he'd be like, what? She's not going to like leave me. I'm me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And
just for like me and you, like I'm me, you're you, like we are so perfect together.
Yeah.
We're so complementary
Yes.
to each other.
Yes.
Like I just can't imagine a world where we're not.
Exactly.
And like, yes, I love myself, but I also love you and I love our relationship.
Right.
And that is such a wonderful thing. Like, I don't want to lose that. I don't want to do something that would be harmful to that or like bring in some sort of negative energy that would throw us out of harmony with each other.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's something like that I always feel like I have to protect from, you know, is like bringing in that negative energy, dealing with that insecurity.
Yeah. Because we have such a harmonious existence together.
Exactly. Exactly. Like you don't come home worried that, oh, is he mad? Is he going to yell at me? Does he need a beer? You know, shit like that. Like that doesn't happen. Like you come home and I'm just running to the door ready to hug you and kiss you, you know, and just be all over you.
Yeah.
The cat gets to you first, but that's fine. He's semi-divine. I can accept that. Okay. But you know,
he's pretty fluffy.
Yeah, right. And he's so fluffy. So like, yeah, that's okay. But this is the thing, bringing in that insecurity, because when the thing is like, I think when somebody who's incredibly insecure ends up with someone like you, Ellen, like their insecurities magnify.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like, I mean, it goes through the roof. I mean, the first person that we had that I can, or kind of the first person in the scenarios we were talking about, got to the point where like suddenly he starts saying, you know, like he comes after me.
Yeah, I mean,
and is attacking my character and attacking all kinds of other things. When it's like, I was nothing but nice to the guy. Like, dude, you know, like just talk to me, you know, and go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to share more on that experience. Not that we have to go into all the details, but
Sure.
This is somebody I was a friend with, and we had spent some amount of time together outside of work. So I met them at work.
Yep.
We talked like during lunch. I went and had coffee with them a couple times maybe.
Yep.
And then there was one time where suddenly he was questioning your history with the military and like, what is this doctorate of divinity? Like, this isn't a real thing. Like, how can you believe anything that he's told you about his history when this is a fake? This is a lie. Like, this is offensive to people who get real doctorates. You know, he was like just trying to introduce a lot of doubt into our relationship. And
which
then,
nothing that he said was like, you knew all of it. Like, it wasn't.
Yeah. He was questioning like, well, how do you know if he was in the military if you don't even remember where he was stationed? And I'm like, I'm ADHD. I have a terrible memory. Like,
Right.
This isn't like him not telling me. I know he's told me. It's just I don't remember.
Yeah, I've told the whole world. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
And like you and I had dinner with him together at one point, and you even told him that you like bought the Doctor of Divinity.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't remember you saying that, and I was like, well, both of us remember that being said. So like suddenly he went from joking, saying that he was gaslighting me, to suddenly, why are you gaslighting me?
Yeah.
And it was just it was a very like out of control sort of emotional spiral.
Yep.
Where I think he had some sort of expectation that like I was going to be in love with him and leave you for him, but that clearly didn't happen. Like my faith in you was never shaken. And I think that bothered him a lot.
Yeah. And another scenario where like he was supposedly already dating someone else.
Yes.
And you know, we would invite her to dinner as well. And, she could just never make it. Now, I mean, I know there were some legitimate issues.
Yeah, she had a health condition. She
Sure.
had a very strict diet.
Sure.
But like, I wanted to meet her. I had asked to several times, and like she just wouldn't come out or couldn't come out. I don't know what.
Or you couldn't go there. It was always.
There were explanations and excuses, but like, point being, I never made contact with his partner, but he was clearly unhappy in his relationship.
Sure, most people are unhappy in their relationships. Like that's practically a default.
Yeah, he was like saying that he wanted to leave her, but he just never thought he'd be stuck in this position where like he's not going to kick her while she's down because she's suddenly like having all these health issues.
Right. Yeah, and I mean now second scenario. I mean, like, it's kind of a similar deal as far as like never meeting the gal.
Weird how similar it is. Yeah, this is another person that I met through work, but different in a few key ways. So like the first time I saw this person, I was struck with this very vivid experience of like being physically attracted to them, but I felt that it wasn't important. So I kind of just pushed that into the background and ignored it and went about my life.
Right.
But then like a year went by and we started talking about music and getting to know each other more, and we'd like go out for walks on our lunch break, and it was a very nice friendship, and it was like building up over time. And at one point he started talking to me about his marriage, and like he was super unhappy. He had this like long-standing grudge because she cheated on him once. And he just really wanted to get out. Yeah. But everybody in his life was not giving him the choice. They were like, oh, well, people have problems. They work through it. You don't need to get a divorce. You have kids. You should stay together. You know, like all the typical responses that people usually say to people who are thinking about getting a divorce. Right. And they were putting their expectations on him. And I was the first person that told him, do what makes you happy. Like, if you think getting a divorce is going to make you happy, like, do it. Yeah. Don't be stuck in a situation that you're unhappy with. Like, you're just going to torture yourself. Right. Do you really want your kids to see you, like, picking at each other every single day? Hating your lives? Hating yourselves? Like, if you love your children and you love your family, like, do something to make it better, not worse. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I always bring this up, that, like, you know, because people say, well, no, you got to stay together for the kids. No. Never, or always model happiness for children. Yeah, don't use them as an excuse. Yeah, if they see you unhappy, you are, and like at that like background radiation level, because you're in a relationship that you hate, you are modeling them to do the same thing, to be in a relationship that they hate and to just stick through it and not be happy. And we are never going to get anywhere if kids are taught, just deal with it. This is what love is. Yeah, this is what love is. It's not about happiness. Never model that shit. No. Holy hell. No. Okay, so anyway, I don't know if you want to continue or I can jump in. Yeah, I can continue. So anyway, like we started having these conversations where, you know, he was just talking about how much he wanted to leave and how miserable he was. And then at one point, I think like our friendship got to a certain point where we were talking about really weird things. And I had this experience with another friend where I was feeling not valued, and I was kind of questioning, like, am I really friends with any of these people? Like, I'm getting invested emotionally, and I just want to be sure that this is something that's worth my time. Because there's a lot of people who will act like they care about you, but really they're just looking for that attention or fulfillment from another person, you know? Yeah. And it wasn't like it needed to be me. Like, I wasn't offering them anything special. It was just another person who was willing to listen to them. Right. And I know that's something that people will kind of use me for, is my ability to just listen. Sure. And to offer insights. And not that I have any problem with that necessarily, but, you know, at some point I've got to worry about my own energy. Yes. You know, exactly. I need to make sure that I'm being fulfilled too. Exactly. So I did question that with him. I was like, why are you really my friend? Like, do you actually care what I think and what I feel? And, it seemed like he did. He wanted to know. So I told him, like, what I was really feeling and what I really thought. And that was sort of a conversation where we talked about my attraction that was underlying.
Right.
And I feel uncomfortable saying this because, like, he was telling me about wanting to get a divorce, and the whole time, like, I might have had this ulterior motive, but I really just want to stress, like, that did not play into me telling him to get a divorce.
Sure.
Like, I would have told that to anybody who is considering it. Like, if they're that unhappy for years, yeah, that's a no-brainer to me. Anyway, so I had the same conversations with you, but, like, even prior to me having that conversation with him, we had already talked about this.
Right.
Because you could tell. Like, you knew.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'd come home from work and I'd mention, you know, a conversation that we had. And at one point you were like, do you like him more than just as a friend?
Yeah.
So you had already known, and, like, you and I were having these conversations about my feelings prior to me talking to him about it. And I don't know if you wanted to share anything about that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I knew. Again, not far from my first rodeo on how these things work, you know. But I think part of the way that, like, you can know is in me, like, at no stage was I afraid. At no stage was I insecure? Was I like, oh shit, like, she's going to get with this guy, she's going to leave me or something? Like, never crossed my mind. So I can just kind of quasi-objectively, you know, look at it and say, oh, I see, you know, what's going on and where this, you know, where this can go.
Yeah, I think the hardest part for me and you was just to work through, because we've been together for so long. This is the first time where this ever came up for me, where I wanted to have that sort of relationship with someone else.
Right.
And it wasn't the way that you had expected that it would play out. So we just kind of had to talk through those expectations and understand, like, what are the rules in this scenario, because it was the first time we were encountering it.
Yeah. I mean, because you know, and I mean, we're going with some radical transparency here. I mean, my thought was always that, okay, yeah, if another guy enters, it'll probably be somebody I've been friends with for a long time, that I would have been friends with, right? They would have already gotten through my trust filter because they're already my friend. You know what I mean? And this was the opposite, where this is somebody I didn't know from Adam, you know, but if I'm going to allow them to be with, you know, the most precious being in the universe, you know, to me, like, I gotta know a lot more, you know, like give me something here, you know, to where I know to trust you and, you know, and so on.
Right. And I tried to get the two of you to communicate with each other. Yeah. It just seemed like he wasn't really that excited about getting to know you.
Well, go ahead.
And I saw that reflected too in his wife, which, you know, after our conversations, so many conversations of me hearing, like, he's miserable, he's unhappy, he doesn't want to be with her anymore, there's just nothing that they can do to heal this rift. You know, like, it was hard for me to believe that there was going to be an experience where I was able to talk to her. Though I think we did get to that point eventually where I was asking, like, well, you know, even if I can't talk to her, you should. Like, you should tell her how you're feeling, because, like, she didn't want to get a divorce. She was still invested in the marriage. Yeah. And, you know, in my mind, I was thinking she was, like, hanging on to this ideal of something that existed previously but no longer does, at least not for him. Right. And she didn't know that because he wasn't telling her. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and this is, you know, and I said this to you. I mean, this is another thing. Like, look, when kids get involved, there are a completely different set of rules. like I mean, there's a whole other aspect to this, because, you know, like, those kids are to be protected at all costs, you know, pretty much. Okay. And so here's the thing, like, if you're getting in a relationship with this person, there's no way that in some scenario that doesn't affect the kids, unless you're just having some affair off somewhere else. In which case, I understand that conventionally and even to some degree, maybe programmatically, that can be seen as an exciting thing, or culturally that's considered like, forbidden fruit and all that. That's why we even have that term. Like, I understand that. Okay. But that's not what we're doing here. That's not how we're rolling here.
No.
Okay. You and I are about evolving the species. we're like, this is not like some, fun, quote unquote fun, like a movie with Richard Gere or something.
No, nothing that what we do is secret.
Exactly.
There's a lot of communication.
Exactly. So that's not happening. Okay. And so eventually you're going to kind of encounter the kids. Now, you encountering the kids, okay? The kids don't just have a mother or don't just have a father. Their mother is not dead. Okay, like some conversation has to be had from the dad, even if you're divorced, like, hey, I'm, with someone else, whatever. Like, I think that there's so much that has to go on there. So for you to have never met, the woman in this, like, no, like something's not right. Somewhere information's not being shared. Something's off, in the whole thing. And it's also just not right. Like in my opinion, no, not everybody has to agree with that, but that's how I feel about it. I like to have that transparency. I like to have that knowledge. And I mean, especially again, like I said, when it's kids involved, holy fucking shit, because the last way that she needs to learn about you is from her kid saying, oh yeah, daddy was with blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's not how that's supposed to go, in my opinion. So
no, not at all.
Right.
Because then the kids have to be the first ones to experience that reaction.
Exactly.
Which is most likely going to be negative.
Exactly.
And that's not fair to them.
Yeah. I mean, this so complicates things. I mean, we're talking about like evolving relationships here throughout this whole podcast. And like, we haven't even begun to talk about what does this mean for having kids, or what does it mean with having kids?
Yeah. I mean, I'm really just focusing on like the interaction between my friend and his wife.
Exactly.
And like, the fact that he was not communicating with her, there's just such a lack of bravery there. And it, like, I get it. There's no trust, there, or at least it seemed like there wasn't any trust. And it also seemed like there was a lot of malevolence between the two of them. And just this irritation with each other, like being fed up with each other, ready to separate. And like, I thought, once he gets this freedom, he's going to be so happy, like maybe lonely a little bit, sure, but like it's going to be so good for the both of them. And if I had thought even for a minute that like they would make the choice to stay together, I would have been much more invested in getting communication with his wife.
Yeah, right.
But like the fact that she was not part of the conversation when he was coming to you saying, hey, I've had these conversations with Ellen. I want to just tell you that like I have these feelings and we've had these conversations. He never offered to like bring her into the conversation. Yeah. I don't think he even told her until much, much later. Yeah. And that's why you didn't trust him.
Yeah, well, I mean, and again, you're only getting one side of the story.
Yeah.
Now, and like the Vorlons say, understanding is a three-edged sword: your side, their side, and the truth. And so, like, I can't get close to the truth without both sides. But I understand. I want to empathize here. I understand that there are times where you can't hear the other side because the other side might be a completely, tyrannical sociopath or something else. And like you're getting out of an incredibly unhealthy relationship that if you don't get out of it, you're going to lose all sanity. I believe me, with all the experience I've had, I know and I've been there. Okay. To those listening. All right. So I understand there's times where you can't get both sides of the story. I get that. But then that requires a lot of trepidation on the part of, in your case, in this case, you, Ellen, in my opinion, it's just, you got to be very careful navigating those waters. Now, I mean, when you and I were getting together, there was somewhat of a similar situation, but here's the thing. You knew, like you saw it firsthand.
I was friends with you and your partner long before you and I were into each other.
Exactly. And that partner was also very open with you about how she felt about things, and it was not in
yeah.
the positive and so on.
No,
Okay.
she told me right to my face
Exactly.
the last time I visited you that she did not want me to come back to the house.
Exactly.
And I respected that.
Yes.
I was like, okay, this is heartbreaking to me,
Yeah,
but
right.
I'm going to listen to you.
Right. So this is the thing, is that like, look, like, okay, yeah, there's times where, yep, the relationship is falling apart. It's bad. You want to get out, whatever, and you want to get with this other person. Yep. We get it. We 100% get it. Even if it's that way, uncomfortable conversations have to happen.
They do. Yeah.
Okay. And you've got to do everything you can to make sure that the person knows, look, this is why this is ending, and you can see how bad it is. It's exactly what I did with you, Ellen.
Yeah.
Like at the time, like you knew, there was no doubt. You know what I mean? So, and I'm not saying that it was great. I mean, like it was so uncomfortable. There was a lot of sadness. There was
But
so much
what's
around
worse
it.
than
Go
an
ahead.
uncomfortable conversation
Mhm.
is living a lie.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not being honest with yourself, not being honest with the people around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you have to fake it every single day.
Yeah.
That's fucking miserable.
Yeah.
And I never want to do that.
Yeah.
So I choose to boldly have uncomfortable conversations
Damn straight.
all the time
Yes.
without fear.
Yes.
Because the only thing worse than an uncomfortable conversation is just fucking dealing with something that you don't want to and you don't have to.
Yeah.
And trying to pretend like you're okay with it.
Yeah. Bravo. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's these are the things that people aren't ready for. I've always said, the world is suffering from two things: a lack of touch, and we don't tell each other how we really feel. And telling each other how we really feel can be very uncomfortable at times.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how people are going to react.
Yeah. But if you, and this gets back to the loving oneself, because if you can't tell someone else how you feel about them, I don't think you can tell yourself how you feel. I don't think you know yourself. I don't think you know, you don't even know what you're saying to yourself. You don't know how you even feel about yourself. And if you don't know how you feel, you probably hate yourself.
Do you even know what you want?
Yeah. Do you know what you want? Yeah. That's the other part. Of course, I've always said this for years as well. The most important question that anybody can answer is, what do I want? Not what society tells you want, not what culture tells you want, not what your mom tells you want, whatever. What do you want? And I have seen people fall apart trying to answer that question because it's too terrifying to do that. And I can empathize with all of that. I really can. And I don't think a person's a bad person because they don't know what they want. I don't think that a person isn't worthy or that they don't have value. They have value. They're human. Okay. None of that is a situation, but I'm sorry, Daddy, you're not entering the circle.
You've got to spend some time by yourself,
Yeah.
working on yourself,
Yeah.
listening to yourself.
Yeah.
And I know I've gone through this experience before. After my first really traumatic relationship with a partner, I spent months on my own, and all I did every day after I came home from work was journal for multiple hours. And I had to do that.
Yeah.
Because I needed to understand where I was coming from and where I was going to.
Yeah.
And I had to make sense. I had to make meaning out of it.
Yeah.
And that's how you get to know yourself.
Right.
And I think that's a hard part for me to talk about as well, because I think you and I have a sort of internal sense of purpose. We have a sort of, I guess you could call it destiny or fate.
Sure.
But it's like an internal compass that
Yes.
points us towards the things that we want.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's a muscle or a skill that people can develop, but it's something that I feel like I've always had. So I don't know if you're born with it or if you can develop it over time, but it certainly is stronger the more you listen to yourself, the more you understand your own motivations and again, where you've come from and where you're going to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think this is where the spiritual component comes in. That you have to exercise that part of yourself, because otherwise how you're going to walk around thinking you're a cog in the machine, because what else are you if there isn't something more? to existence if you don't have a larger part to play, in the co-creative process and whatever. And so I do think it's something that one can develop over time. Some people, I guess, could be born with that sense, and it's not like some kind of, oh, I'm here to be Jesus, or fuck that shit. Like, no, that's not what we're talking about. Okay.
No, I'm just talking about what is your best destiny.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And then maybe what's number 2 and number 3.
Yeah. Fallback plan. It's okay.
Well, like, for example, I know my best destiny is to be an artist, but I also recognize we live in a capitalist society, so I have to make money. So I'm a scientist and an engineer.
Right.
And I'm really good at those things, and I enjoy them. But you know what I would enjoy more than anything else? Quitting my job and just, like, painting and writing and making things all day, every day.
Right. Totally. And that's so beautiful. Yeah. So
I'm not saying, like, you have to know specifically, like, what you're going to do in 5 years or 10 years.
No, right.
I'm just saying, like, what is your direction?
Right. And, in that, like, I want to be really clear on this. Because we're talking about how, like, look, you want to come, like, into this kind of relationship, you might want to lose a lot of those insecurities. Mm-hmm. Okay, look, even if you do that, life evolves, time goes on, and you may have a time where you're in this relationship, okay, and you have a time where, and you feel very insecure. That happens. Like it's okay. Like insecurities can occur as new events happen around you.
Yeah.
Okay. And
it's a challenge.
Right.
It's there to help you grow.
Right. And
so you can either rise to the challenge or let it destroy you.
Yeah. And one of the beautiful things to be in a relationship is that, again, you have a support structure to get you through those times better, so you don't have to face them on your own necessarily anymore. Like that's part of the desire, I think, even for having a relationship, as humans. So
yeah, and I hope people do choose to face them.
Yeah, right.
I've seen a lot of people choose not to face it and just to live with it. Yeah.
No, totally. And that's tragic. And that, again, like, it's okay to, like, develop new insecurities, to have insecurities when you're in a relationship. But part of the point of being in a relationship is so that you're there for each other and you can get through them. It's to integrate. You got to be careful when you say get past, but it's to, like, integrate it and move forward, and
that's one of the most wonderful things about relationships, especially, with me and you, is that we can talk about all of these things.
Yeah.
Like, just share our experiences with each other and share insights.
Yeah. I mean, even when you're in, the most beautiful, quote unquote, perfect, if there is such a thing, the most perfect relationship, right? Years down the line, you could still start to talk about, like, some of what I call the deep darks. Like, there are things inside of you you've never revealed before. Like, suddenly you could admit, hey, I'm into hue cows. You know what I mean? Okay.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, right.
It may or may not have happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and you could say these sorts of things, right? And then, that can change things, but the point is that you're always going to be, and that can bring up an insecurity again. But you're evolving, you're growing, at that point, it's not just like, oh, insecurities are holding me back. At that point, it is an opportunity to grow, within the relationship. But here's the other part. Like, a lot of those things, you can really only face them when there's an other, when there's the other, when there's the other person in the relationship that you can reflect, and get empathy from, and
yeah.
And that's the important, again, that gets to the importance of relationships where, without them, and it doesn't have to be romantic, it could be friends, it could be whatever, but without them, oh man, like, yeah, ship lost at sea, in my opinion. But
I think that's why people have such a strong desire to have those bonds and to develop trust with each other.
Sure.
So that they can start to open up and talk more and have that personal evolution.
Right.
And I guess this is a good time for me to circle back and finish the story with the most recent experience.
Yes.
So my friend who was married, talking about getting a divorce for a year and a half, I was talking with him about this and encouraging him because this was his choice, so I was supportive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there were moments where I guess I could have realized they were red flags, but I chose to not. It's still not something I fully understand enough that I want to talk about it, but like there was an instance where he was saying like, I'm just gonna fill out these divorce papers and drop them off to her tomorrow. And I said, wait, don't you want to work on those together? Like, you guys got married together, you're getting divorced together, like it's once you write this down, it's final. Like, don't you want to know that she agrees with these terms before you sign the paper? And the next day, or soon after anyway, he said that he did talk to her about it and they were going to work on them together, and he recognized that I was right, but like he didn't think of that himself. And that kind of speaks more to the point in the relationship that they were at where they weren't communicating like very much at all.
Right.
But then like more time went by, and he had asked me to go spend time with him outside of work, and I said, you know, you have to ask Brian. Like, I'm not just going to skip work and spend time with you without him having some sort of agreement in this endeavor. And so he reached out to you, and you said it was okay, but it was a very tough conversation, like even for me and you to have. And there were times where it felt like it was causing so much like emotional disturbance for both of us that I thought maybe it would be easier if we just, you know, kind of wrote off the friendship and allowed it to drift apart. But that's hard for me as well, because I don't like writing off people like that just because it's challenging. You know, I feel that it's important to care about people through thick and thin, you know? Like, if you genuinely care about someone, you're not going to just let some hard times pull them away from you.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant earlier when I said you're a good person. Because, again, I don't believe in good and evil, but you're a loving person. Like,
Thank
you are, and I've said this before, even on podcasts, you know, I mean, like, you are love incarnate. Like, it's really remarkable to, you know, to see.
Thank you.
Even first thing in the morning when you're going out to your plants and bending over and I mean playing with the plants, you know, like it's so beautiful. So
yeah, you're not creepy at all.
No, I'm not. It's not like I pull out my camera and I'm like, ooh, you know. But anyway, yeah, and so you don't want to just write things off. Like I get that, you know, and I actually respect that. Even if like I was feeling like, oh, he's not ready. Like this isn't going, you know, like the way that I thought that it should. And I was willing to be patient. You know,
right.
Because again, I don't expect people to get it all. I know they don't. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. That was just the one thing that I had asked of you was not that you have to like him like as much as I do, but just be patient and allow for the opportunity for him to express himself to you.
Right.
Because he's done so with me for, you know, a year and a half that we've been friends, and you just met him recently, so it would have taken time. And that's all I had asked you for was just that patience.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, to talk about, again, to continue the transparency here, like what I was going through inside, not fear, like I never fear of like you were going to find necessarily a better deal, you know, or that like or like that this guy, whatever. I'll refrain from any insults. Okay. But what was going on for me at the time was, you know, as your master, like, I mean, you're so obedient. You're so wonderful. Okay.
Thank you.
You really are. And even though I can quote unquote call the shots, I hate even talking like that because it's so much more. Like it sounds so something that it's not.
It's not just that you're giving me permission. It's your consent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right. And, but here's the thing. It's so hard for me to say no to you. Like that is the hardest thing in the fucking world, is to ever say, no, Like, you can't do that. Like, I want you to do everything, you know?
Right.
And like I said earlier, you know, go for all the cocks, all the pussies, all of it. Go, you know? Okay. It's so hard to say no. But I knew, you know.
And this was the first time I had told you, like, this is something that I want.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I just, you know, in experiencing everything of this person, I'm just like, no, I like, there were so many times where I was saying to myself, like, just let it fucking happen. Just throw up the hands, Brian, and just be like, look, she wants it. It'll, again, you're giving them the rope. The rope's going to hang him, you know, like, it just whatever, you know? So it was a real challenge for me to, believe me, to like, just to stand my ground, you know, and say like, no, this isn't right. When everything inside me just wanted to, like, just let you do what you do, you know, and yeah.
And that's important. And I want to talk about that, you know, in a few minutes.
Sure.
Once we get to the conclusion of the story. But I really do appreciate how difficult it is for you to not give me what I want. But in this instance where you were listening to your distrust and believing it, and like, even though I didn't understand it, I was still listening. I'm glad that we did. I'm very glad that we did. Yeah, so me and my friend did end up spending time together outside of work.
Yep.
And we had a wonderful day. It was beautiful. And I felt like we really connected in a way that we didn't get to normally during work hours. But then, you know, I had a conversation with him shortly after that experience because, like, at the end of the day, he was, like, very much expressing, like, a sexual desire that I told him, like, you know, I can't do this. Like,
right.
Brian doesn't trust you yet. I believe Brian, like, you know, he's allowed to have his feelings, and I want to comply with that because I respect and love you. So I'm listening to you. No matter how much I might personally have this physical attraction, like, there's something more going on that, like, maybe I'm not seeing the full picture yet.
Right.
So I had a conversation with him after that day saying, like, look, the reason that even though you and I both, like, really want to fuck each other, we're not going to do it because you're still married. That means something to you. And you haven't told her about your feelings for me or, like, about our experiences together. Like, does she even know that I exist? Like, does she know that we went to the botanical gardens together? Like, she's still wanting to stay married, and you're going to give her these divorce papers, and she's going to say no because she doesn't realize the full truth of where you're at. So tell her where you're at.
Right.
And apparently the experience of opening up to her about his connection with me led them to reconnect. And they decided that they wanted to give their marriage another shot. They decided they were going to stay together. And along with that, she did not trust him talking to me, spending time with me. So in his attempt to reconnect with his wife, he cut me out of his life completely. And he didn't even tell me until this decision basically was almost already completely made.
Even though you're already friends for, like, almost 2 years.
Yeah. Yep.
Just friends. Yeah.
Yeah, and the last few times I talked to him, just, it went so poorly, like, so poorly. I don't fully understand what was going on, but I think, like, there was a slow revelation of him talking to his wife more and more about things that we had done and said together, and she became more and more insecure. So, like, it started out with, I want to stay your friend, but we're just going to be friends. But I can't see you one-on-one anymore, and I can't talk to you in person one-on-one. Oh, and I also have no intention of staying friends with you, and I'm not going to talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
It just, like, very quickly devolved into that. And, like, of course I was angry. Of course I was hurt.
Yep.
Like, I had some demons that were coming up for me because I had, like, developed that bond, that friendship, sort of trust with this person. And I have to admit, like, there was some level of expectation, because when you spend enough time with someone, like, building a narrative together, you know, when it suddenly changes, it's like, well, what the heck? I thought this was happening, and now suddenly we're going this direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, my expectation that he was going to get a divorce, and then suddenly that's not happening, like, that's very shocking.
Right.
And the expectation that we had always said, like, even if nothing happens between the two of us, we're always going to be friends.
Yeah,
And
a lot of guys say that. No. Sorry, keep going.
he said it, like, multiple times.
Right.
Over a period of, like, multiple months.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it was just so, like, unfathomable to me that suddenly, like, oh, we can't be friends.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was handled very poorly, I think, on his part. And admittedly, like, yeah, I did get angry.
Mm-hmm.
And I explained to him, like, I'm angry not because, like, you told me this during a very busy and, like, torturous work week, but you made this decision before we talked about it. So, like, yeah, he basically broke trust with me.
Yeah.
Before I knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And that was hurtful. Not just because, like, oh, I can't trust this person. Everything I thought I knew about them is a lie. I never knew them until now, actually. Yeah. The other part to that is, like, you filling my head with all of these things about, like, oh, how hot and amazing I am. And yeah, I got mad. Like, there was a period of probably a day where I was like, how dare he not want to be with me? Like, you really think you're going to find better somewhere else? Look at me. You fucking kidding me?
Yeah. All true.
But, like, I got over that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I let those feelings go. I think just occasionally I still feel hurt.
Yeah.
When I think about it, like, angry that, like, why can't we have a conversation?
Yeah.
Why can't we talk about it?
Well, let me address. Can I address that for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because, like, the first thing when he, in a very cowardly fashion, texted this to you. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was going to avoid insults.
I did insult him when I was angry.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was undeserved. But
no, sure.
I, at this point, don't think I should be angry.
Well, okay. But so the first thing I said to you is, like, don't think of him as somehow, like, because I know what you just described, how you're like, wait a minute, I am so fucking hot. How do you resist me? How do you, blah, whatever. And maybe resist is the wrong word.
It's not just that. It's like, we talk about things.
Yeah.
Like, I talk about things with other people that are really fucking unique and,
yes.
and weird and amazing.
Yes. Yeah. And I want to explore that as well. So, like, basically, like, how could this guy just, like, cut me off like that? Like, I'm an amazing human being. You know, it's not, you're not full of yourself in the sense.
No,
you're just,
but I genuinely believe that I'm worthy of love.
Oh, yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And that was, like, the first thing I said to you when you told me what he said, or, you know, when he said, look, I can't communicate with you. I can't do, you know, blah, blah, blah. I was like, don't think that this is like him being able to resist you, or that basically that you're not worthy. Okay.
And
like,
I know a lot of people would feel that way. And, like,
yes,
past me would have totally felt that way.
Yeah.
I would have felt crushed.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, like, a lot, I see it a lot where, like, a gal, you know, who an amazing woman will get turned down by a guy, and that guy will stick in her head the rest of her life as, like, the one that was able to get away, and, like, and there will in fact be a constant attraction to that guy, because what they'll think is that guy was strong enough to say no, you know, was strong enough to, like, walk away.
I don't think strength is involved in this scenario.
No, but that's why that's part of, and I knew you wouldn't fall into that, but I'm just saying, like, that was the first thing I said. And this is a really, really key thing to say here, is that this was not an act of strength. This was an act of cowardice. This is an act of weakness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I said this to him as well. Like, I don't understand why you can't explain that our friendship is important enough
Right.
that you want to at least be able to continue talking to me.
Right.
Because, like, if you care about somebody, you make space for them in your lives, you know? Like,
Yeah.
you and I had a series of very uncomfortable conversations
Yeah.
just so that I was allowed to be his friend and also allow for that attraction to, like, be part of the picture. Whether it, you know, ever amounted to anything or not, like, at least just having him in my life was something that I had to work through with you.
Right.
On a trust level.
Right.
And you accepted it.
Yeah.
You were fine with it.
Yeah.
But I feel like he made no effort to do that.
Yeah.
On my behalf.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like we had a lot of conversations like about, okay, what are you wanting out of this? What is this going to look like? I mean, and there were times where it was whole weekends,
Yeah.
you know, of conversations. And yeah, it does not appear that like you went to bat for him with me. You know what I mean?
Not
But-
even knowing that he deserved it.
Right. and you don't feel that he went to bat for you
No.
with his wife, basically.
No.
Yeah. And that's, yeah, and that hurts, you know. I mean, I think that he basically had to cut off that communication. I'll just say it because he can't resist you. Like, it was the wrong way to do it, but in its own way, he's actually proving everything that you felt. Like, wait a minute. How the hell are you not wanting to talk to me? How the hell I'm an amazing person. We were good friends. We were all this. Like, why are you letting this go? And that's because I don't think he could control himself.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, like, I understand why his wife doesn't trust him with me.
Oh, sure.
Because he wasn't trustworthy.
Yeah.
He wasn't honest with her.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't blame her in the slightest. Like, I have nothing necessarily negative to say here, you know, on her end. Like, I can see the reasons behind her reaction, whatever else. But I mean, also we know very little about all that. And, you know, well, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't understand why she would want to stay married to him, even though he resented her for years and
Right.
treated her like shit, probably because
Right.
she cheated on him. But then him having this experience made him feel like he cheated on her, and they were able to kind of forgive each other and move past it, which is, like, it can be a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
To let go of resentment that's
Yeah.
that deep and to find forgiveness, find redemption. But yeah, I just think there's so much history and trauma together. Like, that makes them bonded, but not necessarily in a healthy way.
Right.
But I think most people don't understand that distinction. They just feel a very strong bond to someone they've been with for that long.
Yeah. There's something where just that amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that you feel like you feel when it's not there, you know, like
Yeah.
when the person's not there. It's not that you feel something when they are, it's just that there's something lacking when they're not, you
Right.
know?
Like, you don't
Yeah.
even know how to be by yourself anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And I can edit this part if you want me to, but like, you know, to kind of also bring this in a bit full circle. Because the person that said, and yeah, or, you know, the person said that we're, you know, me and my wife, we're going to explore open relationships.
Oh,
And I'm like,
that's the most ironic
I
part,
know.
I think.
It's like, wait a minute, dude.
You just failed your first test. Like, the only way you can have an open relationship is by having an honest one. And, like, where is the honesty here?
Well, right.
And,
I mean-
and also, like, if you can just dump someone like you dumped me as a friend,
Yep.
like, no.
Yeah.
There's too much insecurity here. You guys have a lot to work on your own.
Yep.
Like, even if we did stay friends, I told him, like, I'm not being part of an open relationship. I'm going to take
Exactly.
a few steps back. You guys have a lot to work through.
Exactly.
Like, there's just so much going on between the two of you. It's literally a shitstorm.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to work on yourselves, then each other.
Yeah.
And
And then you can talk about an open relationship.
Right.
But, like, it's going to be a few years down the line.
yeah, I mean, and just based on what we experienced, like, you've got some years ahead of you before I think you're ready. You know, like, you've got some time. And, oh boy, I mean, I could not believe that.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
what? You are? Like, that's terrifying. But that's part of the problem. Is that, again, when these terms, like open relationship, polyamory, whatever else get tossed around, I mean, I think the most common policy in open relationships is like a don't ask, don't tell. Like, like. And
I just don't get that.
Like, I think
why would
it's
you not
disgusting.
want to know?
I'll say that straight. And I've said it before on my own show to the whole world. I think it's disgusting. Like, to be that way, because, like, really? You don't want to share the joy you just spent with somebody else in that hotel room with the person you spend most nights with and go to sleep with? Like, what kind of fucking relationship do you have if you're not willing to express to each other, your greatest joys?
So the other side of the coin to that is, don't you want to protect the person that you're with? And so coming back to the point from earlier that I mentioned, you having the distrust of him, not bringing his wife into the conversation, I am so grateful that you had that, because that is ultimately what protected me.
Yeah.
Like, if something had happened between us physically, me and my friend, like if we had gotten into a sort of intimate relationship, like that could have been incredibly hurtful, like so much more than it already was. And I just feel that, like, you saying no to me was, in a sense, protecting me from that potential.
Yeah.
So, again, like, I know it was hard for you to say no, but that's such an important thing for you to do, to listen to your feelings when, it's something to do with keeping me safe. Right.
Yeah, which I ultimately feel like, I mean, is a part of my, grander purpose. And that gets into, I mean, both just straight relationships, also gets into, admittedly, mystical spiritual realm as well. But that, we don't have to go into that part of it here for now,
But I think that kind of plays into something else that you talked about, like how would this play out if it were to happen? And like, you and I had talked about it, like, no, I'm not going to be his girlfriend and go over to his house and spend the night and like play stepmom or something.
Yeah.
It would, like, I think you said you wanted to be in the room, basically.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like.
Or like in the next room. I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's almost no way that the first time another guy fucking you is going to be you and him alone. Like, the amount of trust I'd have to have, and also, like, most likely he'd have to already have a pre-existing relationship that I have seen, and like experienced, so that I know he's not going to do something. I mean, because look, the sexual act, I mean, that's great that most people get so goddamn drunk so that, like they pay no attention to the level of vulnerability that they're, expressing to each other. Okay. But that's an incredibly vulnerable moment.
Yeah.
And when a bad memory happens during sex, there are very few other, levels of bad things or bad memories. Like, basically, like it sticks. Like a bad memory, when something bad happens during sex, it sticks with you for a long time, and like, and
you don't have to explain that to me.
No, right. I know. And it's not just that it, like, again, it hits your core. It's not just that it sticks with you, forever. It's also very deep. So I'm going to be there, to like protect, but also I want to enjoy it. Like, I want to, there's so much going on in that. Okay. Cause I want to enjoy it with the man as well. You know what I mean? Not that I'm going to, like, I don't really have like that level of homosexual tendencies. Like, I don't want a cock in my ass. I don't, and there's nothing wrong with wanting that. Obviously, I hope that's obvious to people, but that's just not my thing. But like, I love being, engaged with, a woman, and, it's me and the other guy, and, we're high-fiving and shit. And
like, and that sounds great.
Right.
I would love that.
Right.
I think.
Exactly.
I don't know if it hasn't happened yet, but
yeah.
Certainly excited for it too.
Yeah. So, but also, like, again, if the person is just wanting to be alone with you, like we talked about at the earlier in this podcast, like, they're not really engaging you and I, and we're one being. That's what that feels like to me. And yeah, it's just off. And it's, yeah. And so like, you and I together don't get to share in the joy. We're that one being, and we don't get to, like, that's how, I see it. That's why I think, part of the problem is, of course, always is terms like open relationship. Well, that means a lot of things. Polyamory, that means a lot of things. In fact, I would never use that term. Some people use monogamish. Okay, I get that. But all these things are incredibly nebulous.
Yeah.
And that's its own problem. And so I can also empathize with anyone that was trying to enter the circle, because like, well, what is this? And that's another part of it too, that I think is really important to get out there. Like, we're weird. We're really weird people.
We're weird people.
I mean, we're fucking strange. We're just shy of alien, I think. And like, credit to this we went on a walk together, the three of us,
mm-hmm.
this person we were talking about. And like, I just went, and this has become, it's not a defense mechanism. It's like, okay, it's a litmus test. Like, all right, how crazy of shit can I say? And how do you react to it? And I just went all in, and I explained to this person, I gave this person a very rare 6,000-year-old view of the universe that very few people get to hear. He took it in stride. I don't think he like necessarily like really like rocked it. And I mean, how could you? But
no.
But he took it. I'll give him this. He took that in stride and like wasn't instantly like, holy shit, like I am not going to talk to these people again. Yeah. Now maybe that was, go ahead. What do you got?
No, I agree with you. I think that's one of the aspects of his personality that was kind of appealing, was that mm-hmm. like, yeah, he's a very open-minded person.
Sure.
But that's mostly, I think, comes from a sense of like, nothing is important, nothing matters, whatever.
Yeah.
Believe what you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, he didn't freak out.
No.
He was just like, right on. That's great.
Yeah, something like that.
Good for you.
Yeah. But I mean, but that's another thing that I think most people, because again, I think most people see us and they just think we're incredibly normal or something. I don't know how that comes across.
No,
because
we're not.
Again, we are so fucking odd. Like, folks, you cannot imagine the stuff we talk about throughout the day and things we do and whatever else. And well, anyway,
like, yeah, we've been together since 2018. So what is that? Like 7 years?
Yeah.
Almost
going 8. On 8. Yeah.
And so I think that when people hear that and that we're married, they tend to think, oh, typical monogamous married couple. But that's so not true.
Yeah.
Like, what we believe, what we want, what we think about, those things, I think we expand our worldview far beyond what most people do.
Right. And the marriage thing, I mean, we've talked about this before. I'll just mention it again. I mean, the primary reason, like when we got together, like very quickly, I think we knew like, okay, we're going to be together forever. Like, like there was this drive of almost like we don't have a choice. Like,
we have to be together.
Like holy shit. Like we have to gravitate consistently together through all time. Like there was just this impulse, and we still feel it.
And so one of the things about our relationship that I think is so amazing that will really surprise people is that when you first moved in with me, I was sharing a house with a few other people. Right. You lived in the bedroom with me. Yes. Like that was our primary space. We had a little office area. Yep. We had the bedroom. We had the closet. Yep. We had, the cat area, and then the rest of the house was kind of like open and shared. Yeah. But that was our space. And like we were just in there together in all of our free time. And we never got tired of each other.
No. Oh, there was no going to the other room. Like what other room?
Like you weren't going to go use the book nook downstairs to do your work from home.
Yeah, right.
Like you were going to be in there with me.
Yes.
6 feet away.
Yeah, and it had to be. Like just and but if people could just understand like the magnetic pull like that we feel towards each other. And look, folks, it's been 8 years. And it hasn't stopped.
No.
Okay? Like,
We just keep intertwining.
Yeah,
More
like-
and more.
right, exactly. Like, I know, I understand. Oh, oh yeah, 7-year itch. Oh, and I feel like, I'm feeling apart, and we don't talk to each other as much. Like, no, that's not going on here at all. Like,
No, we're still best friends.
exactly. And
To put it in terms of somebody that I knew in high school, my head is so far up your ass that we're basically the same person.
right, yes, that is so well said. Yeah. So my point in bringing this up is that, like, we knew this. We didn't have to get married.
No, we even,
fact-
I remember a conversation we talked about being terrified of being married.
Yeah, right. Like, that was just something, I mean, for multiple reasons. One is, like, we don't need the state to give us permission for shit. Fuck
Oh,
them.
no.
Okay. And
Fuck
we don't.
the government.
Exactly. Fuck the government. And I don't need any, like, religious or some sky daddy nonsense god, to like approve of what I'm doing, or, things like these are things that we do not need. And we knew this going into it.
Yeah, we don't need societal recognition that we're a couple.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
We just don't need that. We are in love. We're confident in ourselves and our love. Like,
Right.
That's all we need.
Right. But, the irony is, now, I mean, sure, again, like you said earlier, we also know that we live within this capitalist system. So there are some advantages to being legally married, right?
Oh, definitely. Like
Yeah.
healthcare.
Yeah. All these kinds of, yeah. So we took advantage of those things. So we went ahead and did get married. Okay. But another major part of why we got married was quite simply, it was kind of a defense mechanism, again, not from the government, but from, like, other people, because,
Right.
Look, we're married. Leave us alone. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's an easy way to indicate to somebody we're in a stable, loving relationship.
exactly. Yeah. And for those that it matters to, I guess it works, like the first person we were talking about seems to have respected that going forward.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the reason, that we did that. But otherwise, like, no, we don't give a shit about, like, marriage in that sense. Like, that doesn't mean anything.
The holy matrimony.
Right. Like that, I mean, holy cannoli,
Holy cannoli.
holy cannoli, holy camoli. I think that's how they used to say it. Anyway, like, it just doesn't matter. So, like, but to other people it does. And when it matters to them, fine, that we can respect that. And also, if it's something that we can use to our advantage to get people to, to understand these things, great. But the bottom line is that it doesn't mean anything to us. And again, we're fucking weird.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I get it. We came from a history culturally where, like,
Yep.
marriage was the ultimate deciding factor on
Yeah.
whether or not you stay with someone. But,
Yeah.
like, we don't live in that world anymore. And I think love is more important than a marital status. So,
Right.
like, if you're married and you can't stand each other, don't be married.
Yeah.
If you're married and you love each other, then yes, marriage is a good choice for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be a helpful thing for sure.
Yeah,
You know?
it just depends. Like, love is the primacy. It's like the primacy of that decision.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's at the core of it. So,
with love being at the center of marriage, I don't want to say what the right choice is for everyone because, love is a very individualized thing.
sure.
And it's also something that can be developed between two people into something that's even unique beyond both of them. Like that third person or that third being that you were talking about developing from our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to judge my friend for making this choice to stay in his marriage.
Sure.
I don't want to prescribe whether that's right or wrong. I certainly have a lot of questions and maybe some doubts, but that's not for, it's not for me to decide if that's right or wrong.
Right.
And ultimately, that's why I accept that this is the choice that he has made. And I support it. If you want to try and revive your marriage that's been on the rocks for years, then please, by all means, like, make every effort that makes sense to you. do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
I am not resentful because he wants to make that choice. I think maybe it just could have been handled a lot differently.
Oh, sure.
In a way that was more respectful to me and to the history that we shared. Because I feel like I helped him to grow a lot as an individual. Like, even this experience of getting this radical honesty and this perspective into an entirely new world that he had never taken part in or learned about before. So I know that this experience opened his eyes in a lot of ways. And I suppose at the end of the day, it has for me as well.
Right.
And so I am grateful to have had this experience. And I don't want people to leave this episode thinking that I'm just angry because, this person did something that hurt me. I was only hurt because I had set up expectations.
Right.
And when I reflect on that, it's not fair of me to have expectations of anyone, really. So I just want to let it go.
Yeah.
I just want to move on with my life, live and let live. And I do want to forgive him, I do want to just accept that this is what is best for him.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm happy for them.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say quick, I know it might have sounded like there's some anger expressed, but it was anger for that moment. That's not something now. And,
right.
In the now, there's a serenity. Is that fair? There's an understanding and just that desire, as you always have, and I like to think I have for most, is look, we just want people to be happy. Like, that's all we want.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, because that's all we want.
Go, be happy.
Yeah.
Fly away.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Totally.
And so that's what makes it okay at the end of the day. I don't hate this person. I don't hate anyone involved. In fact, I'm quite supportive of their choices, and I just want them to be happy. And I want to be happy as well. So, I know that I'll never have the resolution that I wanted to have, that I asked for. And maybe I should say, because there was a moment earlier in this episode where I'd said, when I was angry, I insulted him. And really what I said to him was, I understand why your wife doesn't trust you because you didn't behave in a way that was trustworthy. So I don't know if that's actually an insult, but I suppose somebody could take it that way. But, that was just that instance. That doesn't mean that he's going to stay that way. Maybe he will learn from this experience as well. Yeah. And grow as an individual. And I hope so. I really wish the best for them.
Yeah. So just as we're going to bring it in full circle, I mean, I think that point is important to hit on, the insulting and all that. And I mean, and that's the thing. We are in a world where, when we engage, say you and I or Aubrey Marcus, when they engage in relationship types that are not the norm by any means, I mean, the stones get thrown, metaphorically and maybe otherwise. And it's easy to fall back into throwing stones back. You know what I mean? It's very easy, even for me to start, making, ad hominem attacks or, being insulting or whatever, because it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. And I also wanted to speak a hard truth in that moment because I don't know that he would have gotten that feedback from anyone else.
Sure.
I don't say these things maliciously just to tear people down. I say it as constructive criticism. Yeah. Right? I know it probably hurt on some level his ego, as my ego was also hurt. Yeah. Yeah. When that day where I had the experience of, how dare you? How could you not choose me? I got over myself. I got over my ego. I let that feeling go. And I realized, there's something bigger here than just me and him and our 1.5 years of friendship or physical attraction or whatever. Right. He had been with his wife for 7-8 years, maybe longer. So yeah, that's something that I don't have to compete with. I don't want to. I think that if it is a loving bond that they share, then that's wonderful. You know, of course, stay with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that, you know, both the experienced and the inexperienced, I think, hit pretty quickly, or eventually anyway, is you can fantasize about something forever, you know, or a year and a half, or a year, or 2 months, or 2 days, or whatever. You can fantasize about things, you know, about with another person or whatever. But like, until it gets real, until there's like the possibility suddenly exists, you know, for a lot of people, and like I said, this is true, just as true for the experience, so I'm not ripping on anybody. You realize that, oh wait, people have feelings. Like, people have, you know, like this isn't my fantasy. I don't have total control. Like, people are complicated. People actually, you know, again, people have like feelings that don't match what was in my head.
Yeah.
You know, and also when things suddenly become possible, or when things potentially get real, like, things change, because suddenly, wait a minute, this could happen. You know, and that is when reality strikes, it is a far cry from any of your desires. Always, every time. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's just different. And most people forget that, you know, because they feel so much joy in the fantasy. They feel so much passion in the fantasy. And so they can stick in it. They can stay in it. But then again, you know, when the time comes, and this is where I can empathize with everybody, when the time finally comes, yeah, boy, hard conversations, hard truths to handle. Suddenly you realize, oh, wait, this person actually has complexities, you know, I mean, all of that. So.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot going on beneath the surface for everyone. You know, that's a universally accepted fact about the subconscious. Sure. And for a bond that is that long-lasting to have such an impactful sway on someone's behavior, or, you know, even the direction that their life is going, that's understandable.
Sure.
And like you were talking about with the fantasy kind of being broken by reality, you know, it's like having a beautiful day on the beach, and then suddenly an earthquake strikes and there's a tsunami, and either you sink or you swim.
Right.
I wanted to... I feel like I struggled at first when the reality hit, and I may have reverted to emotional reactions that I don't think were in accordance with my best self.
Sure.
But I also feel that I was able to overcome that relatively quickly, like within a couple days. And, you know, a lot of that had to do with just leaning on you, talking to you, sharing these feelings with you, and like allowing that healing to happen, just being embraced by your love. Yeah. So I just want to thank you for that.
Yeah. Well,
and,
go ahead.
And I just want to say, like, I know that this wasn't how you wanted it to end either.
That's true.
I know you're supportive of me having these experiences, you know, maybe someday in better circumstances.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really grateful that even though you didn't fully align with my feelings in this particular situation, you were still incredibly supportive at the end.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that was just so wonderful to have that.
Yeah, well, this is that radical honesty, or that radical fidelity, you know, in the sense that, like, and I think this is true for no matter what kind of relationship paradigm you're talking about. If I didn't allow you to feel safe, to have shall we say, a safe space, to express how you felt about this person, whatever that happened to be, you know, whether it was, you know, positive, passionate, whatever it was. Okay. And I reacted with just like anger and incredulity and like, what the hell is this and all that. Like, that instantly puts a barrier between you and I, because that means that there's a part of your soul, of your being, that is not safe with me. And like I said, every relationship paradigm can do this, and it's always a fail. Like, you just got to buck up, you know, and just be able to, I know sometimes it can be hard to hear, that the other person maybe has feelings for someone else or something. And look, this is even true if you're in monogamy, whatever. But trust me that being able to hear that and integrate and just give love and empathy back to the person who's being so vulnerable with you and expressing these emotions to you. In this case, it was you, Ellen, to me. Like that's always win-win for everybody. Always. That honesty is always a win-win. When you don't feel safe being able to express that, like I said, you're just building up barriers between you and the person who's supposed to be the most important person in your life. It's been such a challenge because like I want these experiences as well. Like I really, really do.
It would be so beautiful.
It would. But like, boy, civilization, culture, society doesn't make it easy.
No.
And
and we feel bad for Aubrey Marcus because he's under fire so much for all, just expressing something that I think is like an alternative relationship that is a beautiful example of one. Yeah.
I mean, as far as I can tell, like there was joy on display in that podcast.
And healing. I mean, like, Vylana was talking about why she freaked out, why she made Alana go away for a few months, right. And how they came back together. Like, she went through something, and she came out better and happier and stronger on the other side.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just so sad to see so many people shutting down like this potential, evolution in relationships. And they were so clear through the whole podcast that our way isn't the only way. This is just our way. And great. And I feel like, and that's the thing. That's why we're talking about this, because we feel the same. Like, look, what we do isn't for everybody. Okay. But it's for us. And we're not going to hurt anybody. And we don't want to bother believe me, we really don't want to bother anybody. I mean, we're sorry if our neighbors, hear us with the insanely loud fucking that goes on. But like at the same time.
All the sounds of pleasure that come out of the house.
Yeah, exactly. Boy, unfortunately, those 3-season houses. But anyway, but at the same time, like no. I mean, because I talk about this all the time. I hate it. I go out into town and I walk around and you see people together, but they're as far apart as galaxies. It's so, they're so sad. And man, I just want to see those like joyous relationships. And it bothers me and slightly worries me when someone who has even reached the levels of success, we shall say, of conventional success that Aubrey Marcus has, and even he can't just live his fucking life and live his truth and express it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and nobody believes that it can be healthy.
Yeah, oh no.
And that's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because, that sounds like social conditioning, religious conditioning, and insecurity.
Yep.
Like, that's what I read from that.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's so unfortunate. And if we get criticism for talking about the things that we did today, I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, sure.
I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to be upset. But, like, I just hope that everyone can heal themselves. Spend some time with yourself. Understand why you're insecure or why you think that it can't be healthy.
Right.
For more than two people to love each other.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So evolution requires courage. I mean, like it's just, or it requires risk anyway, and risk requires courage to jump on it. And anyway, I saw so many shows, there's been plenty of, YouTubers and podcasts and whatever who have come out and say, and just like, just really attacked this whole thing and insulted so much of it. Some of it was fair. Some of the, like
the spiritual side of it.
Yeah, some of that.
About.
Yeah, I even have my own questions. But in general, people wanting to just like live a happy fucking joy, like fucking let them, leave them alone, let them go and do it.
Yeah.
And because I certainly I want the same, and I want the same for you, and I want the same for everybody. But I mean, any closing thoughts on that, Ellen, or?
Yeah, I guess in closing, I'd just like to say that I, as a being of love, want to see the world filled with it.
Yeah.
And I want to bring as much of that into my life as possible.
Absolutely.
And I'm never going to do anything that would go against anyone's wishes or desires. Like, I'm not going to be disrespectful. So if somebody tells me to leave them alone, even when I feel like we're on the verge of having a breakthrough, I'm going to listen, you know? But that's out of love.
Yeah.
It's out of respect.
Yeah.
What I hope is that people open up to each other and they have that courage that you're talking about, and they have the bravery to be honest with themselves and with each other.
Mm-hmm.
I am so sad that our relationship, with its radical honesty, is the exception rather than the rule.
Yeah.
Like, be honest with each other.
Yeah.
Be honest with yourself. Who cares if it's uncomfortable, you know?
Right.
Because if you don't have that uncomfortable conversation, you're going to not be living your best life. And if you're not living in accordance with your own truth, then you'll never find that true happiness that we all deserve, that we all are born into.
Yeah.
And that's what I want everyone to have. So if I can just summarize everything we've said, be honest with yourself, love yourself, and allow other people the opportunity to experience love in whatever variety of ways that they want to.
Right. It's so beautifully said. And I mean, I really just want to like hold space for that and just like have it go silent for like 5 minutes, but we won't do that.
Thank you.
Because like people can just rewind and they should, and listen to that again. Yeah. I know it's, I'm thinking of a Bee Gees song, because we're living in a world of fools, and
bringing us down when they all should let us be.
Yes. And it's remarkable that I don't have anything to add. And for a podcaster like me, that's a rare thing to say, but I don't have anything to add beyond that.
Wow.
And
I've left you speechless.
You have. Yeah. That was so beautiful. And I think we should wrap up the podcast with that.
Oh, thanks, sweetness.
Yeah. Just powerful. So, with that, I think we'll see everyone on the other side. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Fake news, COVID-19, lies and mistrust.